set.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to...
Sean, is yours off?
It's ours for some reason. I muted it and it's not doing it
I'm just joking, Sean.
I know, it is, I'm sorry, it was me, I'm
I think it's Sean's.
Oh, you
yes,
mean
I
me?
apologize for
Oh.
that, I'm sorry.
Oh, you meant
I
Sean,
thought
me.
you meant.
We're good?
Yeah, we've been going.
I'll take
Are we
responsibility
live
for that.
still, or?
We're live.
Okay, it's also out of focus. I don't know if that's just this one,
Does he
or
not know?
We look better blurry.
we're all out of focus.
Yeah, I prefer to be blurry.
Does he not know
I
he
think
has
it's
to be
just,
here?
We are blurry.
it's appropriate.
It's all right.
That's fine.
It's not blurry on here. I don't know why it's blurry on.
I think he just called one of us a low-quality presentation.
We're low quality.
That's what I heard.
So we are live and set, right? All right, thank you. Sorry, everyone. Welcome to the April 25th, 2022 board meeting. We're going to start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we're good to go into the public hearing, right? Right now?
Yes,
Let me just come back to, okay. So we are having a public hearing tonight for all parties interested in an application for a Section 12 on-premises retail wines and malt beverage liquor license from 128 Humphrey Street Food Services, Inc., doing business as Pomona, located at 128 Humphrey Street in Swampscott. Is there a motion to enter the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. Is there anyone have questions, an overview? Is somebody giving a summary here?
yes, we have Angela Noble here that can talk a little bit about the licenses. I do think Oscar Pomona is here as well.
Oh, great. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
Yep.
So
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi.
Hi, thanks, Angela, for joining us. Can whoever is in charge of Zoom promote Oscar as well, please? She's already a panelist.
Just promoted.
We called her Angela.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angelica. I'm sorry that I was distracted. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay. All right, Angelica and Mr. Pomona, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Angelica, you are welcome to take it away. You want?
Sure. So I'm sorry, I don't really know. This is like my first one alone, so I don't know exactly what the board is looking for, but Oscar and his business partner, Abraham, I don't think he's here tonight. They are interested in a Section 12 on-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at 128 Humphrey Street. They did go to the zoning board and they got all approval from the zoning board. There was a question about the proximity to the school behind it, but everything has been approved by the ZBA. I'm not exactly sure when they plan to open, but I know that it was kind of contingent on getting this license as far as like their start date that they wanted to choose. In the hours, I believe he wanted to be open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it's mostly, I don't know if Oscar wants to give an overview of the business, but to my understanding, it will be sorry, my phone just cut out for a second. It will be located obviously at 128 Humphrey Street. There'll be like a bar seating area, but kind of abutting the window, so not technically a bar. A dining room area, a kitchen, bathroom, and he also wants to offer outdoor seating, which would be in the front of the building and also to the side of the building.
Okay, great.
Oscar, do you want to kind of talk a little bit more about the business to let the board know exactly what it would be like?
Thank you so much, Ms. Noble, and good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. We have one Pomona already well established in Winthrop, and it's doing very well for us. So this is a new concept. We are from the Antique Table family, so the Antique Table is already in Lynn. So this is a new concept about serving healthy foods with more to-go and sandwiches, and we wanted to be able to serve cappuccinos with cordials. So the concept is just going to be more to go, obviously with just some coffees and Baileys that we will be served in-house. But it's going to be a small location, so it's more going to be a cafe style for the community of Swampscott.
Great. Does anyone from the board have questions
Want to see if there's any
on
public
the
comment?
licensing?
Maybe public comment?
On this particular, okay, sure. Is there any public comment? Since we have not started with public comment as we usually do.
Yeah, but the public hearing has to have its own public comment, I'm sorry. Since this is a public hearing.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Any public comment? Do you mind just checking the attendees also, Diane?
So Oscar, while we're waiting, is this going to be identical to, you said the Pomona in Winthrop? Is it different in any way?
Thank you, that's a great question. It's gonna be very identical, just like the one in Pomona. The same menu. We just recently got our liquor license there approved a month ago, and we're doing very well. And so definitely the same menu, and we're looking for breakfast in the morning, 8 in the morning, and serve dinner until 9 p.m.
That's great, I think this is exciting.
So the Article 12 is malt, liquors, wine, and cordials.
I believe that's correct.
Angelica, is that right?
It's listed as wines and malts. I think that kind of falls into the same category, but I can double check, but the actual terminology just says wines and malts.
So I'm looking at the application from the ABCC, and it looks like there's a category. It looks like there's a category drop-down menu that says wines and malt beverages with cordials / liquors permit. And my understanding from the zoning board is that they approved. Was it again? I don't know if we have the zoning. I don't think we have the zoning decision here. But they approved. I don't think they approved all alcohol, if I remember correctly.
No, they. I don't think that they did either. I think Marzie, she's on the Zoom as well. She might know a little bit more information about that, but I believe it was just for exactly what he had applied for, not the all alcohol.
Mars, did you want us to reiterate that? Sorry, I know.
Sorry, yes, but I do believe that the ZBA was waiting to hear back from if a liquor license was approved.
No, that's not how this works. The zoning board acts first. We don't. I mean.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Oscar, was a zoning decision issued for your application?
Yes, it was.
Great.
And I have reported that with the Registry of Salem.
Great. Can you remind us, did that zoning decision allow you to do just wine and beer, and cordials, or wine, beer, cordials, and any alcohol? Because I know that there was a discussion at town meeting. There is a provision in our bylaw about sale of alcohol within proximity to a school, and I believe the zoning board was saying that they were treating alcohol as hard spirits, not beer.
That is correct. That is correct. So the decision was to include cordials. It was defined that that did not fall as hard liquor.
And so does a section, Oscar, to the extent you know, does a section 12, a section 12 on-premises license, does that include beer, wine, and cordials?
I'm not 100%. I would have to look it up.
All right.
Peter, are you looking that up?
I am.
Okay. Because I think, well, I just want to wait and see what your response is. It's going to be up to you, I think, Mr. Pomona, ultimately. Do you have any, are you clear, Mr. Pomona, on what the issue is that we're trying to resolve?
I am very clear, yes.
Okay. So just hang in there.
So I just don't know which one 12 is. There's 5 types of on-alcohol beverages. I just don't know the clubs. Restaurants, clubs, hotels, taverns. In addition, retail alcohol beverages fall into 5 categories: all alcoholic beverage, wine and malt beverage licenses, wine beverage license, malt beverage license, and wine and malt with cordials and liqueurs beverages. I just have to figure out which one's which. Besides that, totally easy. All right, do you mind if we,
Yeah.
let's maybe table this?
Yes, I
And
think
we'll
that-
come back, and I'm happy to keep searching for an
Yeah.
answer.
Well,
We'll do it tonight. I'm just
Okay,
saying, table
you-
it for now, so we can,
yeah. So we're just going to postpone the public hearing?
I think I would just make a motion to continue the public,
Yeah, all right.
recess the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're
Aye.
sorry, Mr. Pomona, we'll be back to address this in just a few minutes, or in a little bit.
So we're just recessing the public hearing so we can
Yeah,
continue
no, I
the
know.
other stuff. Okay, great.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we didn't stop everything.
Do you want me to hand you? Here, you can. So, all right, then, we're just going to go to public comment, because I see at least a resident here waiting patiently. Hi, Aaron, how are you? Good. Yes, so we're going to take public comment, and just state your name and address, if you would, for the record before you share your thoughts. Thanks. I will never have that problem.
Hello, my name is Aaron Burdoff. I live in Reverend Road. I am speaking tonight on an agenda item that has not yet occurred, so I will try to predict the future just a little bit. But that is on the new multifamily MBTA multifamily zoning requirement that will be upcoming. We'll be voting on it at the town meeting in our future as well. The one thing I want to impart upon the board, actually, if you think you want to impart upon the board, I'm not going to go into the details of it because we have people here who will do that for you, is the why. Why we are doing this.
I didn't know if that was on either, but there's that one right there. If you can.
That one too, I'm sorry.
You don't need to push a button or anything.
Is that good?
Yep, that's good.
Good? All right. So the one reason I want to comment on here is to make sure we maintain the focus of why this law is coming and why we need it and why we need to work with it instead of against it, as some other communities are already doing. Nahat, for example. We are in the middle of a housing crisis. We're in the middle of a climate crisis. And this law is attempting to solve both of those, not by itself, but just be part of the solution. And I think that's important for the select board, as well as the rest of the town government, to communicate with the rest of the town. We haven't done a very good job historically of communicating zoning changes, say, before town meeting actually happens. And I think it's going to be important to have a campaign in this regards, perhaps as large as the Swampscott Say Yes campaign for the new school, with regards to getting people on board to understand why these changes are coming, why the state is requiring them, making them by law, and why we're making multifamily by right in Swampscott, which is something we currently don't have. So that's the big thing. The other little things I need to ask of the board, besides, doing a campaign for the town, advertising, a little PR work, if you will, is also at minimum creating a task force to handle this, because this isn't something, with all due respect to the planning board, who I know is here, this isn't something that needs to be just with the planning board. This needs involvement from all boards and committees in town, because we're going to have issues like open space that will come up. We want to both create multifamily housing zoning districts and create more open space in town as well, because I know that's an important part for me. That's an important part for everybody in town, essentially. We also have the ability to create new commercial opportunities in town through this law. So just think about revitalizing the area around the commuter rail station and making sure that's a new, vibrant area. So housing, we can get more commercial opportunities, we can get new open space, and all of that is an effort to, again, combat climate crisis and also our housing crisis, in which housing prices are going up. So at minimum, again, create a task force to coordinate that collaboration that needs to happen between all the various committees, your open space committee, your conservation committee, your historical committee, because reviews need to happen before houses get torn down. The zoning board, because they know the process, and the idea is to eliminate as much red tape as possible with this new law. The All Ages Committee, Commission for Disability, think about all the players that need to come to the table in order to have a say in this, as well as residents, because I know town government gets accused of not being transparent every now and then. And perhaps this is a way to open up the process a little bit to make sure everything is transparent as we move forward. Again, task force at a minimum to collaborate, but ideally it would be nice to have, as has been talked about often, a land summit where we actually bring all of the players together at the same time and have a large discussion at the same time. Again, I know that's a new concept for local governments in general, but doing that is an efficient way to communicate and also be transparent at the same time. So anyway, hope you will consider those. I know the actual details of the regulation are going to come shortly. So thank you for your time, and best of luck to Polly and Dawn as they step off the board soon.
Thanks you. Thanks so much for your comments. Is there any other public comment? I do want to, because it's on the agenda that in part tonight, if everyone's okay, I'd like to just offer a quick response. But is there any other public comment? I don't want to keep anyone else waiting. No one online, it doesn't look. Okay. All right, thanks. So does anyone mind if I just give feedback? Okay. No. So I appreciate your comments, and I think I'm excited to hear what the presentation and ask questions and such tonight about the new zoning. But I agree that a task force is necessary. I actually was, my original thought before I had officially decided not to run again was that we needed a task force even for the land use summit. And with this just kind of tying up with that timing really well, I think I agree that at a minimum, incorporating that and having a task force for the land use summit, and of course, to any potential future chairs sitting here, I think that would be my suggestion. So I just appreciate the comments, and I think it is going to take a lot of concentrated focus, and we do need various players at the table, even in the planning and stage to have the discussion afterwards. So that's all I wanted to say on that. So, all right, without further public comment, Peter, I assume you need a little more time.
No, you can go ahead.
We can And the recess? All right.
I would move to take it,
Is there a motion to re-enter the public hearing?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So Angelica, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, sorry.
In your December presentation that you gave us, which was really great, if you recall, there was a slide with license quotas, and I think you were going to update that because I think that there were some concerns that it may not have been just completely up to date. So if you wouldn't mind updating that and distributing it through Sean, to Sean Fitzgerald, so the board can have it. In particular, I think there's just a lot of confusion about the home rule petition, which gave extra licenses to the town of Swampscott. You know, how many do we have, how many do we have outstanding, et cetera. So in reading the one that you gave us in December, again, we say section 12, we don't distinguish wines and malts with wines, malt, and cordials, thank you. So I don't know if there's a difference, you know, so to the extent we actually have one available, it looks like it is a section 12 for wines and malts and cordials. I think.
Yes, so it would be a section 12 on-premises license under the wines and malts. I had asked and got clarification about the additional license for special legislation. So if you want me to try and explain it quickly, I can do so. So we talked.
No, hold on, Angelica. The answer is I would love it, but I don't think we need it tonight. I think what would be great is if you can just update it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to us what was special legislation versus not special legislation. We just want to know how many we have issued, how many we have outstanding. Again, it's about to be reset anyways because the 2020 census came out, and I believe we're going to get another anyways just by population increase. So just if you can just update that and send it to Sean, I think that's just going to be a helpful thing that with every application we have that updated.
Okay.
Just so we have a picture. I appreciate the fact, and I do remember that you said that you did do that homework, and if you can just submit it in writing, that would be really great.
Okay.
So anyways,
If I may say something.
Yes, please.
Oh, I just wanted, so I sent over to Angelica, the town of Swampscott, the zoning board appeals, the approval notice, which describes what we are permitted. And under section 48, section 11, chapter 48, section 11. I don't know if you see that, Angelica. I just emailed that to you.
I do. I have it, but I'm on my phone because I didn't. I'm home tonight, so I don't have everything right in front of me, and I found it. But I know, Marzie, I think that you might know a little bit more about that. I'm not familiar with all the zoning board information.
Could he email it to you, Marzie?
Yes, I'm gonna, Oscar, I'll send you my email, if you can just email that to me.
Yes, most certainly, Marzie.
I don't think we want to table this again.
no, but we've got to refine this process a little bit.
We do.
Okay.
We've got to just make sure that, you know, we've got a connection between, you know, our community development department and our police department when we get these applications, and it comes up through the community development department.
Again, I think that routing slips, as 1970s they feel, they are really effective, and a lot of it's computerized these days, right? But routing slips just so that Angelica knows that she can't process something until the zoning one has been checked off by community development, for example, and just those just help, just reminders in the fast pace of every day, reminders of kind of how to do things. And I think our permitting software actually may allow that already, frankly.
I was sent the information by Marissa and Oscar, and I was under the understanding that everything was all set and that I just kind of had to give a verbal, assuming that, like, the zoning board, that everything in their office was okay.
Nope. No, it doesn't. Yeah, don't read anything. Yeah, you could be absolutely right and fine. It's not about you specifically by any means, Angelica. It's more about just knowing that when it comes to us, not that they're perfunctory, but we want to know that everybody's eyes that need to look at it looked at it, and they did the background and whatever research they needed to do. So when it comes to us, we don't need to speculate how many licenses do we have outstanding. We know with certainty. We don't need to speculate, you know, did something go through a process? It's just a really simple way for us just to have the information in front of us. So these are really a lot
Isn't that what we
easier to resolve.
Seems to be, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I think we can come up with a simple checklist and a form that just,
It says
Yeah,
that's the state.
yeah.
has cordials.
That's the one I said, had cordials.
Yeah.
Right, but we don't keep track of the licenses that way, so I don't know how many of those we have. Maybe all
We
are.
definitely have those available. That falls under wines and malts. We have 5 of them through the quota, and then we have only 1 that was issued to Chipotle, and they did not renew, and so we have 5 available.
Gotcha.
That's the same category under the ABCC. I didn't understand what your question was
Right.
before.
And I guess my other question is having to do the premises. Is this all inside?
So he does want to offer outdoor seating under, like right in front, that would fall under the same temporary outdoor seating through the COVID-19 extension, but then past that, Marzie had said that the town would possibly be voting to keep that permanent throughout the town. So he does want to offer that in the front and the side of the building.
So let's treat the front and side separately. The side of the building's problematic for me because that's in direct line sight to an elementary school. And so
Okay.
that to me is different than the front of a building. And again, not to be prudish in this, but the reality is I think there is a zoning bylaw provision that talks about, admittedly the language may not have been good, but it said basically restricted the sale of alcohol within 200 or 300 feet. I don't think alcohol was not a defined term, so it's allowed, you know, beer and wine to somehow slip through, and that's fine, but I still think the premise of having alcohol being consumed in you know, literally within 100 feet of a school building and a school playground isn't consistent with, I think, what the bylaw wanted and frankly probably what we want. This is my suggestion to the board. I'm fine in front of the building, I'm fine. I think at some point Hadley may not be a school in the very near future. And then on the side, I think is different. So that and I'm fine with the hours, and besides that, I'm fine voting on this.
I agree. I think we had the same, I think we had the same conversation about the side when the wine store was there or something, so I agree with you. One front is fine and rather avoid seating where beverages are served on the side.
Mr. Proponent, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to ask, would that restriction also fall for the off-school season, like summer month, for the outside serving?
Right.
Yeah, I think so, because the schools are still used potentially, and I don't feel comfortable making the distinction right here.
So I have a question about that, though. I would have assumed that was a question for the zoning.
So there is a provision that actually restricts the ability to allow
Right.
alcohol consumption within 200 or 300 feet.
Right.
And it uses the word alcohol. And I can tell you, as the person that drafted it in 2009,
Right.
I wish I didn't use the word alcohol. I wished I used a broader word, because the intention was alcoholic beverages. Big picture, not,
Yeah, of course.
weren't distinguishing bourbon versus beer and wine.
Right. But I thought that they had already addressed that, the zoning board.
They did. I don't know if the zoning, again, we don't have the zoning decision, which is supposed to be in our packet for these things, and we don't know whether or not they okayed an outside premises, but even so, we're still, at the end of the day, their
No,
review
yeah.
doesn't take over
I
our
know,
review. So
but-
I just, and so,
Does anyone have, Marzie, have,
we're trying to, that's the thing
Okay.
that's going to Marzie right now, I think, hopefully. And then maybe to us.
I have what he had sent me, but it just says that the zoning board of appeals of the town of Swampscott certifies that the requirement pertaining to the notice decision to the owner and applicant is set forth in chapter 40A, section 11, and it just says that copies of the decision and all plans referred to in the decision have been filed with the town clerk, and that is that a special permit variance has been granted in compliance with the requirements as set forth in 40A as amended, approval of the definitive subdivision plan that has been granted. So I don't know that I have the second page of it, but I thought I had sent that over in an email with the packet, but I apologize if it didn't make it to you.
So.
But I was Marissa had said that everything went through and that he was all set to do what, what he had asked to do, but we can definitely verify that.
So
I think there's a lot of moving parts here. I don't know how others feel.
I would like to suggest continuing this into our, I think we have a meeting next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we can take it up at 6 o'clock next Wednesday and hopefully quickly resolve it.
Yeah.
Just, I don't think anybody has a problem, unless people say differently. It's not a question about, if we had all the information in front of us and the information said what we think it's going to say, I don't think people have a problem approving basically the license, maybe the outdoor space is an issue. But we don't even have the background information
Right.
in which to rest our comfort. So with that, I guess I would move to continue this until Wednesday, May 4th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Before, yeah, I know.
Okay. I thought you were moving on.
Peter, you
I
can
thought you were
sit
moving on.
here. You,
I'm just so excited.
I'm not, I'm like,
I'm excited.
I'm alive. So I just want to say that for myself, I think as long as, and I'm gone, so just telling you anyway, I think if school's not in session, just let them sit outside and have a drink. I mean, whatever. So I don't think it's the only place
Kids?
near a public, I'm sorry?
The kids sit outside and have a drink?
No, people at the cafe on the side. I know that we're not necessarily, the zoning might not have distinguished between it, but if we're allowed to go around that with discretion, I think if, I know no one ever drinks alcohol at, fire pits or on the beach or anything, so I'm just thinking of public spaces and the people where, limited places you can be to enjoy something outside in the sun, so that would be my 2 cents. With that said, we can vote, take a vote on postponing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Pomona, but next week at 6:15, whatever, you guys figure it out.
6 o'clock, yep.
6:15, okay.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone. See you then.
apologize for the
Thank you.
confusion, thank you. All right, so, hi, how are you? You're not for public comment, right? You're just here to watch, okay. I just wanted to make sure. So, let's move on to the town administrator report.
Thank you, Polly. So, it's been a busy week. Last week, I attended the Finance Committee meeting. The Finance Committee met today at 4 o'clock to finalize the proposed budget that's in your warrant. I want to thank the Finance Committee members for their diligence as we finalize the budget. A lot of important conversations. I want to thank our Director of Finance Administration, Amy Sarro, and Patrick Luddy as well, for their attendance tonight, but also for the work on the budget. We've been busy negotiating contracts. I want to thank the board for their support and ratification of a number of town contracts. I'm very pleased to announce that we have 2 new firefighters, Brittany Coppinger and Dennis Barry, started today. They will be sworn in next Wednesday, formally before the select board, but they reflect 3 new hires that we've had in the Swampscott Fire Department over the last few weeks that really bring the department up to full complement. With this, want to recognize Chief Archer and members of the Swampscott firefighters that were involved in the selection process. Both of these individuals, no doubt, will continue with the legacy of public service that is an indelible part of that department. I also continue to work with our retirement board. Over the last few months, I have expressed the concern that every year the retirement board payment in the town budget continues to increase. This year, it had gone up significantly due to some adjustments that the retirement board made. I had asked the retirement board to consider extending out by a year the payment schedule. We're currently scheduled to pay off the unfunded liability for the pension by 2031. We have until 2040 under state law, and this would significantly reduce the financial pressure on the town budget. In fact, this would avoid a $91,000 increase to the FY23 budget, certainly help us address a number of priorities. They will be meeting again tomorrow, and it's my hope that they will again consider taking a vote that will reduce some financial pressure on the town budget. Last week, I met with the president of JRM to discuss the transition of our solid waste company to Republic. Republic is one of the nation's largest solid waste companies. JRM is a regional company that the town has recently negotiated a contract with. Mr. Motzkin assured me that Republic has every intention to honor the terms of the contract, and I've asked for a letter to that effect, but also a meeting with representatives of JRM and Republic as they seek to transition ownership of the company. The town does have some contractual language in our contract with JRM that requires the town to approve such changes, and certainly the terms, I think, that we've negotiated are very favorable, and it would be my intention to ensure that we see the terms honored in that contract.
Yeah.
Pleased to report that we are finalizing on candidates for our new library director. The Board of Trustees has been coordinating the screening of individuals, and I hope that in the near future, I will have a recommendation for the select board. And this Saturday, April 30th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we have a Earth Fest celebration that includes a town-wide cleanup. We need folks to help us travel around Swampscott and identify areas that have some trash and debris. We've got the vans from the senior center, so if you're looking to get some exercise and enjoy a little cleaner and greener Swampscott, we want this to be a weekend where we really travel around and beautify Swampscott. But there's a lot of activities, a lot of really great conservationist and naturalist activities planned for Saturday, April 30th. So I would encourage you to head down to Town Hall and bring some gloves and get ready to have some great activities. That's my report.
Great. Questions for Sean about his report?
I have one. So just as you're talking with JRM and Republic, my recollection is Republic was our trash provider before we went to JRM. And I don't recall, and nor do I really want to talk about it here, but I believe that there were some reasons aside from just price that we had made some changes, level of service and customer relations, et cetera. And now by adoption, if you will, back with Republic, I just want to make sure that we're addressing those and we are comfortable, because it's not just about the dollars. The dollars are really important. It's about the level of service and the treatment of residents and the communication and the interaction with our community. Because I think, as though the best I understand, I think the complaints, frankly, under JIM has been significantly less than some of the predecessors, and that's a byproduct of human contact and human interaction and how we deal with people in our town. So if you can just communicate that, because it's probably going to be different people at Republic from our prior experience, and make sure that people are well aware of that and how that ended, so that we can avoid that this time around.
I understand. I'm happy to kind of convey those things. I do think that we've had some terrific connectivity to JRM's staff, and issues. While they always come up with wind and pickup, they seem to be very responsive. So I would expect that same level of support. Thank you.
I had a question about...
My hope is, frankly, that I'll be able to invite representatives of Republic to a select board meeting in the near future as well. Excuse me.
It's okay. I had a question about that as well. So with respect to two things, I think in our contract, if I remember correctly, we had said that if there was any change in cost of service on their end that we could, I mean, we don't have the promise from them to enforce our contract yet,
Right.
but assuming that's coming, because they've kind of said it was, I wonder, since it's just even a bigger corporation now, if there's any, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess there's less room for negotiation because there's more of a monopoly, I'm assuming, but I don't know if there's, I just don't know.
No, the commodities for
Possibly be cheaper.
recyclables have gone up significantly over the last 12 months. In fact, when I sat with Mr. Moskin, I said to him that, geez, plastics and paper are up significantly, metals. Was there any thought about, some type of cost sharing? And were there opportunities for us to, think more carefully about how we can improve our contamination? And he asked me, sure, as long as we're willing to share in the increase in cost for diesel fuel, because diesel fuel went from $2 a gallon to $5 a gallon, and there's always a
Yeah.
typical quid pro quo when we get
Yeah.
into the cost of these services, and frankly, my biggest concern has always been budget certainty. And while I realize the market is kind of an attractive
Yeah.
commodity, we're a town with fixed costs, and my focus has always been on just making sure that we don't have to pay more if
Yeah.
the market changes.
Okay, that makes sense.
That said, there may be innovative ways for us to remove glass from the recycling stream. It's
Yes.
costing JRM
It's true.
thousands of dollars and not winding up in a future market that environmentally would be more sustainable. It actually, all the wine bottles, all the glass goes to a landfill, even though we put it in our recycling stream. And that's wrong. There's no good way to say it, but that's a failure from a marketplace and a failure from a environmental
Yeah.
sustainability standard. So we're constantly eager to try to figure that out.
Thanks. All right, thanks, everyone. So the next item on the agenda is an update or summary from presentation from Marzie.
Can I ask you a question before we do that?
Yes, you can.
Can I actually I know Marzie and the chair of the planning board's here, and they have to be here for other stuff as well. Would you mind if we entertain taking some things out of order? Because I think they're important enough to do them at a 7 o'clock hour as opposed to a 9 o'clock hour. And the two things in particular I would like to suggest us do is that we, and I think they're both going to be relatively quick, is do 7 and 6 on the agenda. The handbooks for the board is 7, and then the warrant is 6, and then do the multifamily after that, if you're okay with it. I just think that those are topics that the MBTA thing we're going to be talking about for the next year. 7 and 6 are things that are, I think, more topical today. And I just think that sometimes these topics happen at 9 o'clock at night when people aren't paying attention. And I think these are both things that are worth talking about at a point in time when people are really paying attention.
Okay.
So it's your discretion by all means.
It's not, I don't want to make that decision.
suggesting.
There's a lot of people here who are going to be waiting, that's all. So if others are comfortable with that, I totally agree that they require concentration. I just don't want to make the call alone. So how do others feel about taking, well, do you want to propose a certain one first?
7.
Okay. Do others support the proposal to review the handbooks first while we're,
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
okay, all right, thanks for suggesting that.
Do you mind if I lead in on it?
I do not, let me just get them up, so.
No, I don't think you need to worry about too much. So,
Okay.
you have provided us in recent weeks drafts of 3 handbooks, one being the Select Board handbook, the second being a board and committee handbook, and the third being a code of conduct handbook. And these are handbooks that I would like to say many, not as many as should, but many communities have handbooks like this, and most of them are modeled off of the MMA or other association model handbooks, revised to reflect individual charters or bylaws or just practices of different towns. We had a first reading a couple weeks ago on these, and tonight you have presented us revised, updated drafts that incorporate some revisions, some comments from town council, and some additional work that you have done on these. I think all three are ready for a vote tonight, in my suggestion. And I just wanted to really quickly, the select board handbook, I think, is a really important tool that you, from the second you joined this board, said it would really be helpful as a new member of the board to have something that I can refer to. And while colleagues are great and staff is great, it's just nice to be able to read and do some background reading so you can show up at your first meeting and have a sense of decorum and sense of protocols and sense of rules. And so that one is a pretty extensive handbook dealing with a lot of things from interaction amongst the board members themselves, compliance with applicable conflict of interest and open meeting laws, to interactions with the town administrator, to interactions with town staff. And in particular, as we've been talking about demands and whatnot on town staff's time and just the difficulty it is for staff to be in so many places at any given time, I think it's really important as a tool to remind the select board about the chain of command and our role, so that we reaffirm our obligations to work through the town administrator when it comes to dealing with staff. That except if the town administrator knows that we're working with staff on a project, everything should be going through the town administrator, and requests should be going through the town administrator, and we shouldn't be, for example, asking staff to do work that the town administrator hasn't said is okay, because he's the one charged with knowing who has the availability and to otherwise perform. So I think there's just some really important elements of that. The only thing in the select board handbook that I would like to see change that, excuse me, I don't think's in there is something that is in the board and committee handbook and in the code of conduct, which is a page that requires select board members to sign it.
Yeah.
And submit and have a copy of it submitted to the clerk's office.
Sure.
Saying it's signed. You have a provision like that in the other two handbooks, and I
Yep.
think that's completely appropriate. The second one is the board and committee handbook, which is very much like the select board handbook, a little bit more general in nature, because it's dealing with all the different boards and committees, those that are advisory committees and those that are created by virtue of town meeting, bylaw or charter. And it's similarly a book to help them navigate the process, probably more so for the chair than the rest of the members, but even the rest of the members to understand what the chair's responsibilities are and how communication and actions are. And I think this handbook in particular, I think you did a really nice job on, because I think it's going to make it easier for committee and board members to know how to be effective committee and board members, so that they know what the cycle of government is, so that they know how to work the chain of communication to make sure that their ideas can come to fruition, that they can present feedback on things and they can be heard. So I think that is a really good committee and board handbook, and I would suggest, again, you do have it as a signature, but I would have it be a requirement of all appointees that this gets signed and submitted within 30 days of appointment.
Yeah.
So it evidences that they reviewed it. And then the last one is the code of conduct, which in many ways people may say is the most common sense one, but it's actually, you've said it, Polly, and I think you're right, it's probably the most important one, because it obviously reaffirms the statutory obligations, open meeting laws, conflict of interest, and other requirements, but it also contains a reminder about decorum, a reminder about disagreeing without being disagreeable, something that we've all, and myself most especially at times, have struggled with, and to encourage, especially in this time where everything feels hyper-political, that we are residents all looking to contribute to our community, and to hold each other and hold ourselves to a standard of conduct, and to formulate a process by which, if there are concerns, whether it's discriminatory concerns or if there is abusive language, if there's harassment that's reported, there's a process for which that's going to be investigated. Then that ultimately is, the town administrator oversees that, and then makes a recommendation to the appointing authority ultimately as to what the remedy should be in a timely fashion. I would just ask to just make sure that there was a little bit of redundancy, but I think to make sure it really is the town administrator, not an outside third party. It should be the town administrator, and if the town administrator is involved, it should be the HR director, obviously, because the town administrator can't investigate himself. But then that recommendation is made by the town administrator to the appointing authority to handle. I've never, in my years here, heard of such a situation where something needed to be happened, but that doesn't mean that there weren't situations where something needed to happen. It means that maybe they just went unreported, or people didn't know what to do with it or feel comfortable doing it because there was no path given to them to do it. So I think this handbook is really important because it's going to be a tool, a reference tool for people on that. And so those are my comments for those things. And with that, subject to, I would make a motion and then have maybe further conversation, but I would make a motion to approve the current drafts of the Select Board Handbook, the Select Board Board and Committee Handbook, and the Town of Swampscott Code of Conduct.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of that. And before we, well, is there
Maybe
a
see if
second?
there's a second. There you go.
I'll second.
Don't appreciate it yet.
I just don't want, because I knew then you were going to prompt me on, I'm like, where do I with respect to, and also why I kind of wanted to get it before the second, the only thing, my only concern well, first of all, I want to clarify, removing the independent investigation piece. So I think we haven't seen a lot of it, thankfully, in our town. I don't think we've seen none of it. But sexual harassment generally, I don't think that necessarily a town administrator or HR director should be handling really, really sensitive stuff like that. Let's just anywhere.
We handle it all the time. And frankly, I've had to deal with it. Typically, what we would do is hire an outside,
Right.
firm to address an issue that, would pose a significant risk to the town. Every employee has the right to be free from any type of.
No, and I don't mean it, certainly I don't mean it personal to you. I'm just, these are gonna be in effect, right? Let's say they never get changed and they just sit in a drawer somewhere. And you've moved on to great things.
But these will also be in the town's personnel plan. They'll also be part of training that, we have every year that.
But this is only for volunteers, so my only thing is, I guess, I'm not being very articulate here. I think that we need a mechanism. I think there are certain circumstances where where an issue is discriminatory or harassing, and there shall be, the investigation becomes mandatory. I don't know, for that person's sake, whether the town administrator's investigation and/or the HR director's investigation would feel sufficient, be sufficient. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just trying to imagine, maybe they don't have the training, and hopefully an HR director does, but I just don't know. So
to Sean's point, I hear you on that, but to Sean's point, Sean currently is the HR director, and Sean are currently the town administrator, not Sean, the town administrator, the first lines of response for any complaint that's filed.
Yes.
And then they, using their judgment, decide if third-party independence needed, or if it's something that can be handled internally based on
in
severity.
all circumstances, though?
Yeah, but I don't think there's any mandatory thing that automatically makes Sean have to go out the door and retain someone. I think he has the discretion to decide how to do it. And so all I'm saying, let me just finish this out, I'm sorry. All I'm saying is I'm fine with if the town administrator and or HR director feel as though it's merits to do it, but to have a provision that automatically requires if someone files a claim that automatically the town has to retain an independent third party to do some investigation is something that's actually more extraordinary than what employees have. Here, or frankly, most anywhere. And so
might be fair.
So to me, it's about, I'm totally fine with having that, but I think it needs to be an incremental process where the town administrator can.
But I'm just saying, what if we have trying to think of.
A state commission on discrimination that anybody can go to?
We're not employees.
Understood, but if there were a complaint again, that an elected official had, for instance, they could go to a state commission that deals with discrimination, and they can help address, you know, some issue
To
that.
me, that discourages reporting. If I were harassed sexually, for example, I wouldn't, if my choice was go to some state agency or talk to an HR director and say, I'd like an independent investigation, kind of like an anonymous, like this, because anyone can report it, you know? I just think we want to encourage the subtlety and sensitivity of these topics, and also the feeling, let's say, what's the guy who was in jail and then just, it's like a terrible example, but what if there are two terrible people, and I'm just thinking, like, maybe this is just my legal mind, but like, a terrible person as a town administrator, and then his, like, you know, number two as the HR director. I mean, in some scenario, there could be a situation where there's no one good to report to, and if they have discretion, nothing's happening.
But that wouldn't exist for an employee either, then the employee would have the same problem, and nothing we're doing tonight's correcting that for an employee. We have 600.
I don't know what to say about employees.
No,
I'm just doing it for boards.
No, but I understand, but what we do is we have a line of reporting. It goes to the TA and the HR. You're right, if they're horrendous people, then someone, and they're still in a position of authority and they're totally incompetent, then someone should really be doing an investigation of the select board. But
Which I know it feels ridiculous, Sean, because I have
no, this is
full
not,
trust in you.
Yeah, but my point's not about Sean either.
that
My
respect.
my point's about the fact that I just think, just because someone knocks on the door and says, I have a concern, it automatically triggers Sean going out to the market and expending funds on a third party to do a full investigation just because of the filing of a complaint, no matter what degree, and I don't take any of it lightly. I just think
Only for harassment and discrimination.
I understand,
Yeah,
but
okay.
that's non-discretionary the way it's currently drafted. And what I was saying is, I'm fine with the town administrator and HR director going to do that, like they
Okay.
would do for employees. I'm just making it required, to me, is too stark of a standard, that's all.
I also think it's important that, you know, the board appreciates that managers, we are liable personally if we let somebody be harassed in a workplace and we don't take
This
affirmative.
isn't a work, I think that's the only distinction. I think the reason why I'm being more careful is because there are very clear laws for employees and very clear lines of communication and authority where people can report for that, but there's kind of like a gap, if you will, between for volunteers. Like, you don't have the same, I don't know if you otherwise have a legal obligation
You're considered to be employees on, you know, because you're appointing authority, you're part of the.
No, but I actually think as though we're constituted as special employees.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
not just us, but people that are appointed to committees are also constituted as special employees under state law. So I think there are protections that apply to them for both ethics and other purposes. But still, I hear you, and you're making really valid points. All I'm saying is to have it
The
be.
Mass Commission Against Discrimination, for example, I know won't investigate.
No, and I agree with you about state commissions and going to that. My only point was, I just think as though letting our top two HR professionals
Yeah.
do an initial review and say, this is
Become unempowered.
serious, not serious, and
Yeah.
again, it's all serious, but you understand what I'm saying, degrees.
I do.
And then referring it out as needed is something I think is a discretion that needs to be retained
Yeah.
in this situation.
No, I can appreciate that, yeah.
I agree with what Peter's saying.
Okay. All right, then. So, do you?
I do, and I seconded.
Oh, you did. Well, you seconded before you,
I know.
that's why I didn't want to second it, because I didn't know if,
I'll
but anyway.
I'll
So
be
we've
second.
seconded it, and, so this is all in favor as amended for the board handbook, adding the acknowledgement, for the board and committee handbook, sign and submitted within 30 days of appointment, which I think is in
Same
there,
thing for the select board.
and I'll make it clear, yeah.
I think everybody needs to, we need to have the same rules as board and committees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, because we have to sign the board and committee.
both.
Yeah, but yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
And then code of conduct, report to the appointing authority, make it clear, cut out the redundancies or confusions. And with the amendment that the TA and HR have discretion for further independent investigation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. My life is not complete, but tonight's complete.
Thank you for doing it.
Of course, thank you. All right.
Now, if you wouldn't mind, I'd take number 6,
Yeah. All right.
and that's the warrant. And I think we're going to be
I'm
able to move
officially
pretty-
obsolete now. Okay, so the warrant. Just right off the top,
No. Stick with me. Go ahead.
do you want to walk through one at a time? Do you want to just propose do others have ideas?
So I thought what would be helpful is to page turn, but I don't think it's gonna be a painful page turn.
Yep,
We have the draft
we
warrant
have
in
to
front of us.
page turn. Yep.
But just go through it and make sure that we capture, you guys did some recommendations when I was at a FinCom meeting one night, so I
Yes.
don't know which ones those are, but let's make sure we've captured them
Yep.
correctly and which ones we have it, if we're ready tonight to make recommendations, to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna rip out my table of contents, so,
So Article 1, we're not approving or disapproving. We did approve Article 2.
well,
Can I ask-
Article 2 has been revised, so I think you're gonna need to, oh, sorry, so Article 2 hasn't been revised, sorry.
This is going to print tomorrow morning, right?
It is.
Okay, so
Article 11.
Yep, we're gonna go through it.
when we start making changes right now,
I will be updating,
you're doing it right now on the, okay,
well, yeah, because I'll be doing those
okay. I just want to make sure
Yes.
we're,
Will there be, not
Capture.
that I don't have implicit trust in you, Amy, are there a second set of eyes on, okay,
also doing a very late.
based on our, okay, recommendations, okay, thank you.
and sorry.
Okay, Article number 2, we approve. And I do not, I confess, have the prior,
We did, yeah, so that's,
no, we approved it,
We
but
did.
I'm assuming the numbers are the same. Yep, okay.
yeah.
So it says select board will
It
report.
says we will report, but we
Did
did,
you
we did
so
recommend approval.
Favorable
they
action.
voted favorable action.
Okay, Article 3,
So 3,
Nope.
I think the town finance director has an update on, because that actually has been updated based on the FinCom meeting at 4 o'clock today. Yes?
So
Am I right?
but you should,
yes, you are correct. If you flip to page 14 in your warrant, there has been there's page 13 first. The line 61 for the Swampscott Public Schools has been increased to $30,222,917.
Can you make sure to put that in green?
Yes. This is reflective of the increase in state aid as well as an additional $6,800 to restore it back to what the superintendent recommended. And then there is a reduction on page 14 in the employee business health of that corresponding $6,800.
wait, can you say that again?
The line 61 for the public schools was increased by the Ways and Means increase in state aid, which
Yep.
is $96,247, which was previously not in this budget.
Yeah,
Plus an additional $6,826 to restore it back to the superintendent's recommended budget. The health insurance was reduced by $6,826 in order to restore those funds.
And that health insurance line's under line item 59.
Yes.
Got it.
And that was based on a meeting that I had today with the superintendent, where we went over the school budget. We went over some of the concerns about school funding challenges. I certainly wanted her to know that while the state budget isn't finalized, that, you know, the House Ways and Means budget did include some additional funding, you know, for Chapter 70. It did include some additional assessments for charter school, and so when we reconciled the additional changes in the state budget, you know, we had the ability to increase the school town administrator funding to up to what the superintendent had requested, with a variance of about $6,800. I asked the finance director to make some adjustments to bring that up to her recommendation, and the superintendent's recommendation, given the fact that we've had, you know, some significant challenges, you know, with the pandemic, and certainly want to be mindful of the complexity with the school budget. We also pledged to have more frequent meetings and conversations about, town finances, and really think carefully about how we share these fiduciary responsibilities.
So I assume we need to report on this one. I assume you guys didn't make a recommendation.
We did not.
We did not.
So if okay with you, I'd make a motion to recommend favorable action on Article 3 as amended. FinCom also did favorable action on it.
Yep, I see that.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No, it's not written in your book.
It's not.
No, I know, but I knew that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. From 4 o'clock today, right?
But your printed warrant doesn't say.
No, right, no.
I was just letting you know since I went to the meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter, you're an aye. I know you
I'm an
moved
aye.
it, but I didn't. Okay. All right, so that's done. Article 4. Hang on.
So, on Article 4, in my discussions with the superintendent today, I did.
Nope.
Oh, that's Article
Oh,
5.
I'm like,
That's
So
5.
why?
Article 4, there's a language change that we just would like to suggest,
Okay,
which is the insertion after the word free cash or other identified funds. Insert the phrase or other identified funds. And this is for the paying of collective bargaining agreements. Our understanding is that it's not free cash that will actually pay these agreements, but funds that will actually flow to the general fund to do it. I'm looking at the finance director to make sure that we're good with that. So Article 4 would be amended after the words free cash with the phrase or other identified funds.
yeah, we definitely need that.
Both the title of the article and within the body of the approved transfer of free cash or our other identity.
Yeah, I mean, I still get thrown off by why it says approved transfer of free cash generally for funding the first year of a contract. That's not how we fund first years of contracts, but
I can strike that and just put collective bargaining.
I think it's collective bargaining agreements is the way I just do it. I just think this free cash thing throws people
Well, it
off.
especially doesn't make sense now.
Right.
Yeah. All right, and I don't think did you guys report on this?
No.
No.
So I would make a motion to recommend favorable action on Article 4. It will be amended on the floor, or the floor motion will have the detailed numbers. So actually, maybe we should wait, sorry.
Yeah.
We don't have the numbers,
Don't
so
have the
we're going to take no action on this.
Yeah. But, well, we want to take action on I don't know if we have to vote on that, though, changing the language.
Yeah,
Adding what
no, I
you
don't think
wanted.
we need to, I think we're going
Okay.
to vote to close it later with this,
Yeah.
all these meetings.
All right, so, Article 5.
All right, so, this is.
And I think the same thing applies, right? We're striking the first half.
Well, yes, if we're doing this article.
Yes, I wouldn't recommend that we just leave free cash. I would put a free cash or a sum of money. And in my discussions with the superintendent and the finance team today, the superintendent did share with me that she was hopeful that the select board would include a warrant article for the school's collective bargaining contract with the teachers. I shared with her that I would recommend tonight that we include this article as part of the annual warrant. This is, I did ask her for some additional information. At this point, we typically would want to see a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that outline the terms of the collective bargaining contract, the finances, understand where we're paying it from, and get a sense of the agreement. She did not have any information to share at this time, and she was hopeful that between now and town meeting, that perhaps there will be some additional information.
Is that, that's a big unknown, I think. Do we have any, is that all, does that capture all of the details that you know?
That does. In fact, there was no information. Our finance, Director of Finance Administration was in the meeting as well. Was there additional information, Amy, that you heard that you could share with the board? on,
No, as of right now, they said they are not at a point where they've discussed what that give-get would be for these one-time changes, just that they wanted the placeholder there as they negotiate so they are able to do this, with the understanding that if they don't have this finalized in time for adequate discussion before annual town meeting, that this would be postponed to a future special town meeting.
What's adequate discussion, do we know?
Enough for the finance committee. Sorry.
typically we've
Enough
had
for the finance
public-
committee to, and the board to feel comfortable recommending this article.
And town financial team?
Yes, and us.
Yes. We'd need to know. You know, this, you know, would have some significant financial impact on the town's financial position, so.
And the superintendent did say that they would be sharing all the information with us as it comes through. It's just at this time, they haven't hit that point in negotiations yet.
I would suggest that, given we're going from no information to needing a lot of information in a short period of time, that this is not appropriate to keep on as a warrant article. I mean, we literally have nothing.
Well, there was no maximum.
Has the school department asked you what you believe to be available funds
Right.
that they can even contemplate
Yeah, do they have a sense of a ceiling?
of, don't respond in dollars, it's a yes/no question.
No.
Did they indicate that they were going to come to you before they had the negotiation to say, hey, this is what we want to do? Does it meet the financial guidelines of your financial plan? Does it?
No.
Okay, so I agree with Don completely. I think this is just premature. We wouldn't allow you to put a warrant article for your collective bargaining agreements if you didn't share this information by the time we did the warrant. And the reason ours is happening is because we've, you know, you've signed for collective bargaining agreements. We know exactly the amounts and we actually know where the funds are coming from. They're not coming from free cash. They're coming from other source. And so that's why we're comfortable, I think, with Article 4, because we have the information. Article 5, we have absolutely nothing. You haven't even been asked. You're not included in the negotiation, I sense.
I'm not.
Okay. And so I just don't know why we would.
Well, I guess my only last question, because I have the same inclination, is was there an analysis provided at least, even though there wasn't a ceiling provided because it wasn't requested apparently, or a ceiling given based on an estimate that they might have had? An analysis, financial analysis from their budget in terms of what funds are available other than from free cash, like, I don't know, ARPA funds or other funds that are part of the school, whatever is part of the school.
Yeah, so the director of finance of the schools did inquire about what was available in free cash, what we had left to stay within our financial policies, because it was discussed with the school committee and the superintendent that they would be hoping for this warrant article. So I did share with them what was available in free cash.
But they didn't provide an analysis to you from their financial end of why, where, that there's nowhere for this and here's why, and.
No.
We did have a conversation, and I was pretty clear, you know, we would need to do quite a bit of a deep dive into the financial implications, and that wouldn't simply, you know, be with town staff. We would have to have typically, you know, a
Joint meetings or.
non-public with the select board, with the finance committee, and we would need to really roll up our sleeves and understand the give and get, and, you know, how we would use one-time revenues to try to buy structural costs within the contract. Now, I do think the school finance team and the superintendent intend to have that type of detailed conversation with the select board and finance committee, and so I don't want to, you know, not kind of share that,
Yeah.
you know, update. It's just like every contract, you know, especially every difficult contract, it likely will take right up to the, as they say, the courthouse steps or the day of town meeting to get parties to try to get to an agreement. We've, you know, frankly have had some of those difficult bargaining sessions, and I certainly, you know, assured the superintendent that I would lend my voice to advocate that we include this, because it does help drive schedule for ultimate negotiations. That said, typically, we would require, a lot more information. And it was clear the superintendent understood this was, kind of a significant ask.
Yeah.
So I just, again, the fact that they asked you what our excess of free cash above the minimum of our guidelines doesn't actually, it's not actually the pertinent question. It
No,
says, so how much is in our bank account? It doesn't actually say how much can we really spend, how much have you already allocated to other things in the next fiscal year, and to understand the 360 there. And again, let me say this, I think the school finance director is terrific. I mean, I think she's very thoughtful, she asks questions and stuff. I'm confused why the town administrator, who is statutorily part of the bargaining team for the school contracts, even if not in the room, in the act of negotiation, is not even privy to the cost-benefit analysis of what they're talking about, that knows what this money would potentially be used for, and had a robust conversation with the school financial team and school department and school committee about what really is realistically the available funds here. We hold the town administrator to that standard when we sit in, frankly, in executive session. He comes back and says, this is what I think is the best deal, but this is what it's going to cost. We say, great, give us the analysis, give us the financial analysis. What's the return? Even if there isn't a return, now tell us what your financial needs are of free cash for the next year. And as a matter of fact, for these 4 collective bargaining agreements here, you are not using free cash because we are so close to that limit. Although it's still robust, it's intended to be robust for a reason, to protect us. You aren't using free cash, right? It's because in conversations we asked you to identify other things, and you've identified other things, and it's that type of conversation. If any of that had been happening, then I think as though that makes sense to leave out hope, but all that has to happen in 3 weeks.
Well, that's my concern.
Like, all of it.
Not only the dollars, which seem likely, but the pressure it would put all the way on every committee, and then at worst-case scenario on town meeting to have to work out the implications. It just seems like there's not enough time. I do appreciate the attempt to, get this on the warrant in advance in recognition of past practices and recommendations from you. I feel like I don't know how it would ever get done, but hey, I'm not, this is gonna be,
Sean,
that's my feeling.
Can you explain, like, what happens if we remove this article, and, what does that mean for their ability to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement, and what are the steps for them?
I think it removes a lever that forces conversations, if they are thinking that town meeting can appropriate funds, then that gets pushed to a subsequent town meeting. And so it does take a little bit of the opportunity to fund an agreement that wouldn't solely rely on a school operating budget appropriation.
Yeah.
So,
I
takes a
think
lever off.
I think you're being very generous with that. I'll just be honest with you, I think your response is generous. I believe, my concern is, I don't want the inclusion of this article to be mistaken as they can agree to write a check without including the town financial team on the analysis of what that is, and to get in a situation where they come to you and say, well, we have an agreement. And you then have to be the skunk at the party to say, that's fine, but we don't have a way to pay it. That is it is a backwards order. They should be including you in the conversation, and if you've had 0 conversations about it, like truly about what they're really talking about, then that to me just sets us up for a dispute. And the dispute is, well, we need this to keep our teachers happy and do the best thing for our kids, which of course we know they want to do, and of course that's what we want to do as well. But on town meeting floor, it then becomes about, well, but they're asking us to do something that financially we're not prepared to do because we haven't even analyzed it. Like, we don't know. And I just think it's setting up, even for the so your leverage point, I think, is not really accurate here, just because we're so far from even that point.
Understood. Right? Peter, obviously, it does, affirmatively, I should know, and we should know. We should actually, when we get contracts of this magnitude, this is the biggest financial obligation, biggest contract, cost contract that we'll pay for any of our operating budgets. This is where most of the taxes go, and so having a really strong financial acumen for these contracts are the baseline of every successful municipal government. You know, we've talked a lot about the cost of contract, and I've talked a lot about the cost of contract. And so with all of that, I did agree and did have a long conversation with the superintendent today. And you know, I certainly appreciate the board's concerns about making sure that we're ready to have this conversation with town meeting, because I do think that absent that type of preparation, this could go sideways.
So, I mean, based on the unknowns and the concerns that I think we've all raised, are we just, I don't know that it makes sense. We're not really helping to solve the problem of our concerns by recommending indefinite postponement. We would have to be removing this
If we're ready,
entirely.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to remove Article 5
Okay, well.
in its entirety. If, I didn't mean it.
Yep,
You
no,
said
no,
it.
I was just getting there, but you were there in my mind. Okay,
Second.
all right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That's just removed, Amy, then, right? Obviously, you got that. Check. All right, Article 6, we, help me out, did we?
I think FinCom
think-
reported favorably, yes? And so did you guys previously?
We did, I
I
thought.
think we did, yeah.
Okay, so just,
We were initially going to wait, but then I think it didn't really matter, right, Neil?
On the 6 and 7?
I don't know, let's vote on it
I don't think
again,
we
because I
didn't
think you
report favorably.
ultimately.
I would make a motion to
Thank you.
recommend favorable actions for Article 6 and 7. And I'm just going to go with 8 to the extent you didn't at this transportation fund.
We already approved that.
Okay, 6 and 7.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Further discussion, Neil, you look concerned.
Well,
Walking through
I mean,
Japan.
it'd be, I think I mentioned this at the meeting.
Yeah.
We can recommend favorable action, but I would just like to know the implications on the rates. If you've modeled, I think you mentioned that you've modeled the rates based on this transfer of retained earnings, so if we can see that, that would be helpful. Because I thought I heard mentioned, maybe it was at our meeting or at a FinCom meeting, where this was assuming like a 2 or 3% increase. But I didn't know if that was, in my 2 experiences with this, I didn't know in the first experience with this, if that was overall 3% increase, or if, if that was 3% to the consumption rate, but there was something else happening with the base rate. So it would be good to know that, especially because these numbers seem conservative. And I don't want a 3% increase.
So we had to use some assumptions that were based on some static information of our prior year. So based on certain assumptions, this is what the model had indicated. We thought,
For what? But to answer a specific question, indicated to not have a rate increase greater than what percent?
3% for water, 2.75 for sewer.
All in, consumption and base. Does that answer?
Yeah,
Now, I likewise find these low amounts
right.
surprising to get us to these
We
things.
were also surprised.
So I'm a little confused because the apocalypse was upon us last July, and we were like, oh my God, we don't have enough retained earnings to take care of this. So I don't know, it would be helpful to come back and give us a little backup on that, I think.
Patrick, would you like to come back and give that presentation?
Sure.
All right. We will schedule
Does that answer your question, like the 3 and the 2.75?
Yeah, I mean, I think having
The
gone
presentation?
through this, having gone through this,
Would you like to then not make a
I
recommendation?
think I'd rather
Let's-
just report on it at town meeting,
I would
personally.
make a motion to undo our recommendation. Did we already vote? on
No,
this?
no, we didn't. That's why, because I knew he was concerned.
Just knew you were concerned.
She just felt it.
She felt you.
What's that?
You just
I
felt
said
it.
you just felt it. You
Felt this
felt
aura
it.
of concern.
I saw it.
No, you did.
If there was a gavel, I'd be
serious.
handing it over. Jeez.
All right.
You think you felt it, I'm in the middle, I really felt it. And then it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Article-
yeah, that's right. And then you channeled it.
I channeled it. Purposely dulled it.
Article 8. you guys-
Anyway, we're not doing any, so there was a second, but we're not taking action.
Correct,
We're
correct.
postponing that. We'll report at town meeting.
Yes.
8 was already voted favorable action last time. 9, we voted favorable action last time.
Yeah.
You got that one? Aim, thank you. Revolving funds, we voted favorable action last time.
Can I just ask you on the revolving fund, why, I understand that there has to be a cap on the expenditure, but what's the real motivation? If the money's not there, the person can't spend it. How does the 300,000 tie with the revenue that's expected in the account? Like, what's the thesis behind
It's a
why
budget
the cap is?
that rolls up. I asked for a budget that shows where that $300,000 will help program
Gotcha.
recreation. So over the last few years, we've increased recreational programs and initiatives, and this will help us do more.
But if the rec department said, I have a budget that says I'm going to, literally, if 3 weeks ago came to you and said, or 3 months ago came to you and said, I have a budget for $500,000 worth of programming and expenditures, would you raise the cap for $500,000?
I would.
Okay, that's all I want to make sure. There's some correlation as to where this number comes from.
Yep,
It
I'd
just
come back
feels-
to town meeting, but
Right.
town meeting has to authorize.
Yeah, no, I got that. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to,
Yep.
it just seems arbitrary, but it's not.
Okay, so we had already voted favorable action on 10. Article 11, we are removing, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
You want to I'd make a motion to remove Article 11?
I can't.
You just did?
I just
Oh,
did.
Second.
sorry, couldn't hear. All right, any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 12. I think you,
These will be renumbered with.
yeah.
The current Article 12. Did you guys recommend?
I think we, didn't we?
I think, Neil, did you want to get closer to the number or do we not care? We
No,
re-
for 12, no.
Let's just be safe if we
I
can.
do a motion to recommend favorable action on Article 12.
Is there a
The
second?
current article, the appropriation for Chapter 90.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we definitely did not vote on Article 13, capital projects.
So can I just ask that we again highlight in green, just like you did the budget, where the CIC and FinCom numbers are different? I think that's helpful to committee members.
I need time, I personally would need time to.
That's fine. Let's not take action on
Does
it.
anyone else, though? Because I'm just one person, I won't.
No,
I think
that's
we
fine.
should-
Let's just,
yeah.
we'll talk about it later.
All right, so we're going to report at town meeting on Article 13. Article 14, we went back, we are going, can we just incorporate presentations, or do you want to get through the rest of the warrant? Let's come back to those.
Why do we have someone here? doing
Sorry,
presentation?
yes, on the agenda, we have presentations from our citizen petitioners.
Are they here?
I don't know, but my point is that I think we should, it's not, we're not at that agenda item, should we just?
Well, we are at the agenda item.
I'd recommend we put these at the end of the
Can we just, I just am saying, I'm,
Yes, I agree, if they're not here, but we are still going through the warrant.
okay.
Yes.
16.
Okay. Article 16,
I would like to move,
is there anyone that's going to,
not here, I don't believe.
No.
I would like to move that we, I think it's great, I'm not a fan of partial edits to bylaws over multiple town meetings. There has been conversation about a bigger rewrite of the
I
whole earth removal
really do
bylaw.
agree more. I couldn't agree more.
And so I think that while some of these are
Really
really
do
good
agree.
intentions and is good, I just don't want to keep going back to town meeting with incremental changes to bylaws.
Yeah.
And just very consistent with what we talked about with the planning board stuff last, right? And so same with earth removal. So I would suggest that we,
Recommend indefinite postponement.
no, I would take this out of the warrant. That's what I'm recommending.
We can do that if the planning board also has to,
No, I was analogizing about the planning board. The planning board has no role in the earth removal. It's us only.
oh, I'm just wondering, why is it here then?
What's
Am
that?
I misreading?
It says the planning
It says the
board.
planning board.
That's a typo.
Okay. So we do have sole authority to remove it?
Well, we have it anyways.
The warrant
it's
is
all-
solely
it's all
the
ours.
select board.
Doesn't matter who sponsors the article. We're the ones that,
This is the
Well-
select board's warrant.
Thank you. I know, but I usually, if you put things on here, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Angela, the chair of the planning board, and you have favorable action, I wouldn't want to not hear from you or consider that. That's all I'm saying. But we don't, because that's here accidentally.
Right.
Yep.
Which makes sense since it's an advisory committee. But anyway, so, did Peter just make a motion?
move?
to
Yeah, I just moved.
Move Article 16.
I did.
I will second.
All right. Any further discussion? I support removal. I feel bad. I know Tony is here, and on Zoom here. And I appreciate the efforts, and they're very careful in their reviews. I do think that there is a larger amendments happening, or kind of in the works of happening, and I think doing it at once makes more sense, so.
That makes sense to me.
All right, so all those in favor of removing Article 16 as written in this warrant?
Aye.
Okay. Article 17, thank
Tony
you.
raised her hand. I'm not sure if you wanted to acknowledge that, or?
Yeah, Tony?
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, see if you
yeah.
can promote her.
I think put her as a panelist and then unmute her.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Tony, thanks so much. Yes.
Hi, no, I just wanted to mention that we had these non-quarry related amendments come up for a few years now. And some of them, you know, dealing with the makeup of the advisory committee, it seemed important to just get those through. And it seemed a logical division that we were focusing on the non-quarry edits to the bylaw and leaving a larger rewrite of the bylaw that would deal with the quarry as for another day, because it sounds like it might be a little while before that gets done. And these modest changes, you know, as I said, have been something we've been trying to get on the warrant for a number of years.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. Does anyone have other thoughts going back to our recent decision based on Tony's feedback? Which I do understand. I'm just gonna wait, sorry, I'm waiting, I think they're reviewing. I know you said no, but I just don't, I'd rather get an affirmative no from others.
You know, I appreciate Tony's comments, but I'd rather get, you know, a comprehensive review.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we try to do it all at once.
okay, all right. All right, thanks for sharing, Tony. All right, so Article 17. Angela, are you good?
No, I think this is the one we went through last week.
Yeah, but don't we need to talk about,
We're going to talk
didn't
about,
we make changes?
we're supposed to be talking about the use table. You didn't approve it yet.
Right,
You asked that we make changes. We did. We got town council review and approval, so now I'm presenting the final draft.
right. Thank you.
That's Article 15 now, as far as I,
Yeah, we're still calling it 17, just
Yeah,
because that's what
just
we're looking
for
at.
ease of review.
I had 15, but that I probably was making that up.
At one point it was 15.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Well, actually, is it,
It should be in your packet.
yep,
It is.
Okay.
what is it, Article 16?
Appendix B, Article 16.
It's Article
I
16,
think.
so it's,
What is it?
In the
Oh, wait,
packet.
it's all gonna change. It's all gonna change.
Yeah, yeah.
no, I know, I'm just saying,
Okay.
It's wrong even in our, when we're referring to it.
Would you like me to review it for you?
No, well, if others do, I don't need you to, but if others want to do it,
No, I'm okay.
have a presentation.
Thank you, Andrew.
Essentially, you had asked for a couple of changes, which just some clarification of language and some of in the chart itself, and then you had asked me to put together some criteria language to be added to the criteria page for the select board to use when granting use special permits, which we did, and all of this has been reviewed by town council. I was also asked to put together a comment for the warrant page for the article itself, not just the appendix, but the article itself, which I submitted this morning. I think you got it, Sean, so the comment is prepared as well.
Peter, you had mentioned something in passing about one of the lines that was inserted, something about the second floor. And I just wanted to make sure that that's okay from your land use view, that you don't have concerns about that. Otherwise, I'm good.
So I guess I'll get to that point in a second, Polly, thank you for that reminder. In the criteria language that you added for the use special permits for commercial establishments isn't a defined term. So I'm wondering what you mean by commercial establishments. Anything that's not residential?
No, anything that exists in the commercial districts.
So, okay, so I think we have to, I guess I think we have to be more refined, and I think, but let me say it this way. I think and I think this is inadvertently broad. For example, a retail use, a soft goods retail use. If I don't think there's anything offensive about having a Marshall's, a Gap, and if TJ Maxx wanted to come in,
That's correct.
an appropriate thing. So I don't think you're trying to get to that type of commercial use. You're trying to get to a specific commercial use for the use special permit limitation on proximity to each other. I think you're trying to get to financial institutions and maybe some personal service establishments. Right. And so I think you just need to narrow it down further.
We were advised not to do that, but to rather narrow it down by means of number of similar businesses of categories within similar businesses. In other words, we could have, 5 restaurants in a row is great. 5 Mexican restaurants in a row. I love Mexican food, so it's nothing to do with that. Would not be.
But that's not what the provision was ever. That wasn't the conversation we were having. We weren't worried about 5 Mexican restaurants. Right. We were worried about 22 banks.
That's right. That's correct. And what we did was it just happened to be that the banks were some reason singled out as a use that was allowed by right, whereas no other use was allowed by right. Every other use was allowed by special permit.
No, that's not true. It's depending on the size of the use.
Depending on the size of the business.
Right.
That's right.
Anything 20 in a Vinden Square, anything 5,000 square feet and less, I think, is as of right.
Right, which was precisely the reason why the bank was able to go in as.
No, I understand.
Right.
So I think my point here is I'm fine including this.
Okay.
I believe this combined with the fact that the use table inadvertently now has left out things like a financial establishment above 5,000 square feet that's not on the first floor. Is that allowed or not allowed?
It does say, excuse me.
It's a rhetorical question, really, but it's okay.
I think it's in the use table.
It's not.
So, bank or financial institution containing less than 2,000 square feet of gross floor area on the ground floor.
Yep.
So in other words,
Yep.
Mortgage,
Yep.
credit unions.
And the next one says a bank.
On the second floor, bank or financial institution containing less than, that's, was not in.
More, so I'm saying, so it says, our number 32 is bank containing more than 5,000 square feet on the ground floor. Great. Where is a bank on the second floor containing more than 5,000 square feet? That doesn't exist now.
Right.
And so I'm just, for example, I'm not doing it because it's inclusive. I just think as though what we should do is, I'm fine including, I personally think it's great. This is really good stuff. Let's include the Warrant article, but I suggest why don't we work on the language such that when the motion on the floor will include an addendum that will be handed out at town meeting that will
Okay,
have
agreed.
some modified language, just to
Yep.
make sure that these little things are taken care of and we don't have discrepancies.
Agreed, so we would insert a line after number 32.
Yeah, for example, I mean, let's.
I know, I
let's-
understand what you're- I
Yeah,
understand
we'll
what
take a
you're
break
saying.
and then we'll go back and
Yep.
we'll all look at it and you and I
Okay.
can sit down with town council or whoever
And we'll put
yeah, and
something
just
in.
come up with, that way when you're doing the floor motion, it
Yep.
includes everything that everybody thinks should be in.
That would be great. And additionally, if you have any suggestions for the criteria paragraph.
Now, it'll be interesting to hear town council explain what they were trying to protect against.
Okay,
So,
but we can certainly, I think, amend that in the floor too if
Right.
necessary. Thank you. And so.
I'm just gonna let you go ahead and make whatever motion you're thinking about.
I would just make a motion for favorable action on article, whatever, the zoning article.
Well, whatever it
17 as
is.
it appears.
17 as it currently appears in our thing.
Okay.
And with the understanding that you'll be
Yeah,
working.
or do you
Yep.
want to just?
I know it's
We'll
not
work to-
Maybe we just
contingent.
report on it.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
We're going
why
to
not-
report at town meeting.
I don't care. I
No,
just wanted
no,
to-
Neil's right.
Yeah.
We're going to report at town meeting.
That's not unusual for
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
no.
Yep.
zoning,
Okay.
so thank you.
I feel like- It's a great last meeting. I really feel like I mastered
Look at all the work you're
art
getting
here.
done. Look at all the work you're getting done tonight.
Yeah,
You've set a new standard.
yeah.
Our next meeting is going to be totally unproductive.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. All right, so Article 18.
I just have some change in the language on Article 18 that I'd like to suggest.
The appendix or in the?
No, in the article itself.
Okay.
The appendix, Amy, I sent you a final draft. I don't know if that's what's in here now. Okay, I mean, there were tiny changes, so it doesn't really matter, actually, but the language in the article itself, I'd like to change it so it just says, to see if the town will vote to adopt the climate action plan resolution included in Appendix D, which was developed by the Swampscott Climate Action and Resilience Coalition, a citizen-led group of volunteers, period, and that's all it says.
So you're taking out the word authorize.
Authorize.
For a sentence.
Yeah,
and you leave-
so vote to adopt, and
I
then.
think that's great.
And then forget about all the other language.
Do you want to shift any of that to the article comment?
No.
Well, do you have a comment? Because
I actually sent you a
Yeah.
comment yesterday, for this, so. I know.
well, it'd be great if we saw it. Okay.
Well, do we want to hear it? I
Is there
mean,
something that you can send to us and so we can look at it?
Sure.
We're closing the warrant, so I just want to.
yeah,
Lost ink.
maybe Amy
Amy, if you, yeah,
has it in her junk mail.
could you forward that off?
Oh, that, so cruel.
It wouldn't be her putting it there, you guys. It's just a show.
Did you also provide one for Indigenous persons?
I did.
Okay, so we need that as well. While she's looking for those, do you mind if we go back and talk about the citizen petitions and
Peter,
signatures
I
here?
may have sent it to you too, so,
Well, no, you don't get away with that at all.
understood.
Not a chance.
Did you send it separately, or was it in one of your Warrant draft emails?
It was the one that I sent you yesterday, afternoon.
Okay, so, while that's happening, Articles 18 and 19, then why don't we, looking for the comments for Articles 18 and 19 as currently listed in this warrant. Let's go back to the current articles, what was it? 13 and 14?
14 and 15.
14 and 15. And we just have to, is Tasia Vasiliou present? Could you switch to attendees just so we can see, please?
She told me earlier that she was not going to make it.
Oh, okay.
Her and Debora Newman, she's the second one. She's
Yep.
not gonna make it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So in the past, how we've handled citizen petitions is that being as they are and having no ability, legal ability to influence or correct or amend the language. It has to be as written by the petitioner. We have not taken action on.
I heard you guys talking about it the night that I was sitting back there listening to a FinCom meeting, and that's actually not accurate. We have on citizen petitions taken positions, and FinCom, as a matter of fact, took positions today on both citizen petitions.
So, I'm not actually kidding. I was going to say but.
Oh, do you have a but?
Because there's financial implications, I don't know what, just feel like I need to justify that we just got this, so I didn't see what FinCom had recommended. On this particular one, I knew about the budget stuff, but yeah. So they recommend, FinCom recommends indefinite postponement. And anyway, so that's my position, that we would weigh in on it.
That we wouldn't?
Would.
So on both of these, I would make a recommendation for indefinite postponement on both the citizen petitions.
Okay, so you want to take them together?
Yeah, I was just making sense.
Because I would recommend indefinite I would recommend us voting on it for different reasons, obviously, based on number 15, but it implies a change for us, so.
In change meaning giving us something like appointing authority, you mean, that change?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think it's wrong to give the select board appointing authority over FinCom members. Yeah,
me too.
I agree with you.
So you just made a motion indefinite postponement for
both of
both,
them.
right?
But I just wanted to make clear for me the reasons.
Yeah, if you want to do them separately, that's fine.
So
No.
Indefinite postponement of both citizen petitions?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so, any progress on 18 and 19?
Can I, so while they start searching, can we just talk about order of warrant articles, if you don't mind?
Sure, go
I
ahead.
don't know how I feel, but I tend to want the two last warrant articles. Are we comfortable with, let me just put this, are we comfortable with the order of where they are now, or does anybody want to suggest a change to the order of warrant articles?
You mean citizen petitions
No,
going last?
just any of them generally, but no. I think, having thought about it more, I think I'm probably comfortable with the order
I'm fine with the order myself. But.
where it is, so I think it.
Just move the order from the last version. Just in case they're.
Yeah, we're,
Just in case you didn't like
yeah, no, I'm looking at the,
previous order.
I'm looking at the version you sent us. Okay, all right.
You're given the changes we made tonight.
So did you find comments?
I did, I just,
Yeah,
Diane
just emailed
as
them.
well.
Great, thank you.
No.
Read them.
Okay.
Read them to you.
Sure, no mind.
So do you want me to just read the comments for 15 aloud, the climate change resolution?
Great.
Comment, we're seeking town meeting support, I already need to edit the, okay, for creating a comprehensive climate plan as we seek to join other Massachusetts communities that are taking a leadership position on building a more sustainable future. This is a non-binding resolution that will help encourage the creation of a comprehensive climate action plan for adoption by town meeting next year. The select board recommends favorable action on this article at town meeting. That's not part of the comment, but
I think that comment's fine. I would just say we are seeking town meeting support, not, or,
yep. Okay,
but I
Amy,
think
that's okay.
That comment works.
Okay, I'm good with this
it's your
one.
thing. Okay, and then just in hyphen between
Yep.
on and binding, thanks.
So we're seeking town meeting support?
Yeah, and a hyphen between.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So with our comment approved as amended, what?
I'm sorry, were you going to go to Article 16?
Then we have the
Indigenous?
Indigenous Peoples' Day comment also.
Well, the motion is for everything together. Didn't we move these together? No, we didn't.
No, we
didn't.
didn't.
Sorry, my fault. The citizen petitions we moved.
Boy. He's just trying, no, he's just, it's a coup.
I will make a
I'm gonna walk out
motion.
in shame
I will make a
after, like,
motion. I'm going to get us out of here.
Jesus.
That's what we're doing tonight. I would make a motion to approve the climate resiliency article, climate change resolution article with the comment just read.
As amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Article 16. Wait a minute. Wait, it's Article... Why do we have two?
We have multiple. You
Article 19 as it appears in the warrant.
Yeah.
Your
Okay, the
table
whole thing has
as-
to be redone anyway.
As Article 16,
Yeah.
17, 16, 16.
Yeah. Oh, I printed it before. Mine doesn't have that.
Oh, well, I'm glad. That's good.
Okay. All right, the Indigenous Peoples' Day proclamation. The comment that is proposed is, Columbus Day is an annual federal holiday that occurs on the second Monday in October each year. Therefore, since it is a federal holiday, the town does not have the ability to officially change the name of the holiday. With this, there is no reason why the town could not vote to adopt a different name locally that honors our Native American history and the indigenous peoples as we seek to commemorate their histories and cultures.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
I think that's fine.
I just want to look at one thing, if I may, before we.
Are we at a point to take a motion?
Yeah, I was looking at a potential edit, but,
Can I suggest in the third sentence, where it says, with this, there is no reason, instead start it by saying, however, comma, there is no
Or
reason?
or there is no reason. Yeah, all right, fine. And then maybe,
So, however, comma, there is no reason. We have a town administrator that likes the phrase, with this.
Yeah.
He loves that
and
phrase.
after maybe,
It's amazing.
what other people think about and the indigenous peoples after Native American history.
I also like lo and behold.
What's the question?
How about vis-à-vis?
Like, honestly,
What's the
Sad but
question,
true.
Polly?
well,
What's the
it's not you. And the indigenous peoples after Native American history.
What are you saying? What are you
I just think
suggesting,
it's-
striking it?
Yeah, it's kind of just like, just that part and the indigenous peoples. I just feel like we don't need, like, it makes it sound like we aren't actually referencing, we're just, I don't know.
Well, it's Indigenous Peoples' Day, so it kind of feels like you need to be celebrating the indigenous peoples. No, I'm serious. I
I know,
actually think
but
that
there's
phrase.
Native American history right before that.
Yeah, I actually, if you were to strike one, I
Yeah, I
would
would
be
say
striking
strike
Native
the
American history and keeping
Okay,
indigenous
that
peoples.
honors,
That honors the indigenous peoples as we seek to commemorate their histories and cultures.
not but yeah, that honors indigenous people.
Do you want to keep our or just honors
Nope.
indigenous?
That honors.
Ours.
No, they're not ours. That's like
Honors-
the entire opposite point.
Yeah, right,
We're
right,
just
yeah,
going,
That would be bad.
our indigenous people, oh my God. Okay, and then I don't know why there's peoples. Can we just do people?
I
I don't know what's.
think it's people's.
Different tribes, different,
I don't know.
you know.
Anybody have a
groups.
grammatic?
I just think, you know, it's, it reflects on just the different cultures and the different histories. This was a very unique land, and as we kind of think more critically about that history that has been almost completely wiped out of our academic textbooks, you know, it's going to take us some time to really understand it.
I'm just going to save you on this one, Sean. Peoples should be reserved for instances where you are referring to more than one distinct ethnic group.
I think we are. I think we're.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
great.
fine.
To,
So I'd make
Good.
a motion to.
But I just want to
Sorry?
say, I just didn't want to casually throw in, it just makes it, we want to actually honor this by being careful with our language, and
Agreed.
so I appreciate that we took the time.
Sure.
to the comments.
So we're
Do you
sticking
need
with
to be clear on what we're
Yes.
doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Nope, that was the only.
Not our, and however, not while there is no.
Yep, Columbus Day is an annual federal holiday that occurs on the second Monday in October each year. Therefore, since it is a federal holiday, the town does not have the
Oh,
ability.
actually, strike therefore too.
Okay. Since it is a federal holiday, the town does not have the ability to officially change the name of the holiday. However, there is
Change
no
its
reason
name.
why the town could not vote to adopt a different name locally that honors Indigenous peoples as we seek to commemorate their histories and cultures.
Thank you. I'd move favorable action with that comment.
As amended, right?
As
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
All right. We did it, right? We're through.
We did something.
We did a lot. So now, are we really doing the closing?
Well, I think we got to close. We got to make a motion to vote to close the town
Yep.
meeting. So I'd move to close the annual town meeting warrant with
Wait a sec,
consistent.
sorry. Just as a separate agenda item, I'm sorry. I just wanted to be clear, Angela, it has you presenting on the zoning changes. I just want to make sure we've captured everything you had to say about that.
Yes, I mean, there
tonight.
wasn't much
Okay.
to say. It
All
was
right.
just some changes I had made from the
Yep.
request that you made at the last meeting.
Yep. It was as a separate agenda item, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to
No,
make sure
thank you.
before we moved on. Yes, you're welcome. Thanks so much. All right. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
I'd make a motion to close the annual town meeting warrant consistent with the votes of the board tonight.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can the board also either decide they're signing wet ink or vote to allow digital signatures?
I make a motion to allow the attachment of our electronic signatures on the final warrant.
Is there a second?
Second?
Wait a minute, how does this work when two people are going to be voting on?
It's going to be
Doesn't
your
matter.
Effective
It's
right now.
based off who
Doesn't matter.
is
Yeah.
here
Today.
tonight.
You're
Wanna
still
add
select,
something, John?
yeah, you're still, until,
No?
the
You're
town
on.
clerk
Till 8
swears
p.m.
somebody
tomorrow.
in tomorrow, you're a
Yeah.
select citizen.
Yes, no, I know, but we just,
By the way, you're
forget
always,
it, I just forget it, I'm not making sense apparently.
in my eyes, you're always a select citizen.
That's because you're leaving too, John. You want everyone to say that about you. I'm just joking. That's fine, yeah, electronic, is there a second for the electronic signatures?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're plowing through here. Marzie, thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
Well, so it's actually Angela who will be doing the quick presentation, and we just have just a couple of slides I would like.
Sorry,
to go
Angela, I
with.
didn't mean to. I just had Marzie on the agenda.
That's okay. Okay, so I can be in. So the purpose of our being here tonight is to make a formal presentation to the Select Board as required by the new zoning regulation adopted by the state. These are multifamily zoning requirements for MBTA communities. Section 18 of Chapter 358 of the Acts of 2020 added Section 3A to Chapter 40A of the General Laws, the Zoning Act, applicable to MBTA communities, which is referred to as Section 3A. And it requires cities and towns, 51 cities and towns, which are considered MBTA communities, to adopt some zoning changes. So, what are MBTA communities? So as I just mentioned, there are 51 MBTA communities in the state of Massachusetts. They are communities, which you can see on this map, highlighted in blue, dark blue, and I think there's light green in there. And they're communities that have subway or light rail. They have bus access or a bus station. They have commuter rail, or they are MBTA adjacent. For the purpose of this discussion, Swampscott is considered a bus community. So one of the major, what is the,
Why do you think that is, Angela? We have a community. Error?
I don't think it's an error. I think there's a, specifically a formula that actually it would be preferable for us to be considered, I mean, in terms of density, to be considered an MBTA community because only 15% of our existing housing stock would need to be used in the calculation of how many units we needed to add. As it being a bus community, 20% of our identified housing units, which is a little over 6,000 units, have to be available through the zoning. In other words, we'd be required to zone for an additional, I think it's about an additional 1,257 units. And to say exactly why we were targeted as bus instead of MBTA when we don't have a bus station, but we do have quite vital
Ever
bus
increasing.
access. Pardon me?
Ever-increasing commuter rail?
I can't answer that question for you at this time. I don't know the exact reason. Marzie and I were fortunate to have a gentleman by the name of Josh McCabe from Harbor Light Community Partners, who has, I know he is a housing advocate working for the Harbor Light Community Partners. He presented to the planning board a couple of weeks ago to brief us on this new MBTA zoning bylaw. And he put together a presentation for us, which I've modified somewhat, and which we're going to review with you tonight. The reason we are reviewing this with you tonight is because there are certain compliance factors that every city and town who are identified as MBTA community towns are obligated to complete by certain dates. So on this compliance schedule, May 2nd is the first date that we need to address. And before May 2nd, we are required to hold a briefing on the draft guidelines for our select board and attest to that on the MBTA community information form, which we are also required to submit by May 2nd. Marzie will be completing and submitting the community information form after this meeting tonight and after we've been able to attest to the fact that we have indeed presented this outline of the draft guidelines to the select board. So just to be clear, there is no action required on your part tonight. We certainly will need to spend a lot of time going over this in the future, and as it is, it will be, a complicated amendment to adopt. However, so just to outline what the MBTA zoning law is all about. So there's a major aspect of the MBTA zoning bylaw, or Section 3A. So it establishes a new requirement that all MBTA communities should have a zoning district of reasonable size that allows for the construction of multifamily housing by right. Multifamily housing in Massachusetts is defined as 3 units or more. And the town currently does not have a zoning district where 3 families are allowed by right. We have 2 families by right, 3 to 8 special permit, and then we have various other types of zoning. So we would have to create that kind of a zoning district. And the district needs to meet 4 requirements in particular. There has to be a minimum gross density of 15 units per acre. It can't be more than a half a mile from a commuter rail station, a subway station, a ferry terminal, or a bus station, if applicable. There can be no age restrictions, and the housing must be suitable for families and children. Interestingly, there is no affordability guideline in here. Our inclusionary bylaw would apply, or could apply, certainly if when we construct the zoning, so we can choose to develop zoning that has an affordability component. So as part of a stakeholder engagement process, the public had until March 31st to submit comments to the DHCD, but the DHCD is currently working on final draft guidelines. They're actually not available yet. They're supposed to be available to cities and towns this summer. This bylaw doesn't require us to bulldoze and build. Okay, it's not a mandate. Creating the zoning is a requirement, but bulldozing and building is not a requirement. It also doesn't require us to develop one-size-fits-all zoning. We can think about our town and where we think this zoning would work best. We can think about our needs in terms of the types of housing we have been trying to provide, the rest of our environment in terms of could we actually improve other sections of town by developing housing around it. And I think if we look at this creatively enough, we can work with it to create other improvements in town as well. Again, the law does not mandate any affordability component, but it does allow them as long as they don't unduly impede any kind of development. So we wouldn't want to say, our inclusionary zoning bylaw is going to apply, except now it's going to be 50% of your development instead of 10%, which would, discourage someone from wanting to build in the zone. So we can't make it prohibitive. So the district size and location is an interesting part about this. The initial concept is that it can't be, it should be sort of a half-mile, radius around the MBTA station. But we are a bus community, and because we have bus access and very substantial bus access in different parts of town, for example, Vinnon Square, we can locate our district wherever we would want to. At 15 units per acre, for us to develop the over 1,200 units that this zoning would require us to develop, we would need something like 85 acres, which we don't have. So the minimum amount of land we can use for our zone is 50 acres. Yeah. At 50 acres, we're looking at more like 26 units per acre. If we needed to break it down, for example, we could break it, the smallest way we can break it down, those 50 acres, we can have one of 25 acres, and then the other, we could have 5 more at 5 acres apiece, or, broken down to make up the 50. And we can link them together or separately as long as we meet certain guidelines. Let's see. As I had mentioned to you before, in very, very preliminary discussions with the Community Development Department, we've been talking about, thinking about some opportunities for including housing at any kind of redevelopment that may or may not happen in the Vinnon Square, Swampscott Mall area. And our initial thoughts are that this would be an area that would make the most sense and creates the most opportunity for the town to create some robust housing. Let's see, I think I covered that. It also, the 50 acres has to be developable land. So obviously, a lot of our land here is underwater. It's wetlands, it's town-owned land, there are schools, there are parks, those don't count. You can't just overlay it on anything. It has to be developable land. Whether or not there are buildings there or not, there has to be the opportunity for it to be developed. And the plan should, account for height and coverage limitations, any restrictions and limitations set forth in other municipal bylaws. In other words, there can't be any other limitations imposed upon that land by other zoning restrictions. It has to be free and clear, and if we were going to bulldoze a building, you could develop something on it. So it has to be developable land. The compliance schedule for us to begin working on this begins this summer. So the DHCD has committed to having final guidelines released by summer of 2022. And this would be the time where we would hope to understand exactly where we need to head with this and start our community engagement process. I know Aaron had made some recommendations earlier on in this meeting, and I certainly hope you'll be the first to volunteer, because I'll be calling on you to participate. We'll need all your expertise and help, as well as many others in the community, to put together the kind of robust community engagement we'll need to create an excellent zoning bylaw. Thoughts are also that we would look at doing an overlay district. There are a lot of different options of making this work, and hopefully by the time the summer is through, we'll be able to put together a plan, submit it by the spring to the DHCD, and then over the summer of 2023, we'll have to reach a series of milestones required by DHCD with the zoning adopted by December 31st of 2023, which would mean most likely a fall town meeting adoption, since the 2023 schedule does not work with our May town meeting schedule. And that's all we know right now. We'll certainly be coming back to you as soon as we have more guidance from the state. Again, no action required on your part except for this presentation. I did also email you several other documents that we have received that you can review over time, and this is just scratching the surface of this information and engagement process, so more to come. And thank you for listening.
If I could just maybe add two things. So obviously, it's important to create housing and housing for all residents of all income levels and abilities. But probably the most important requirement of the legislation is the fact that it really ties into a lot of grant programs. So if a community does not comply with the requirements of the regulations or of the legislature, therefore we would not be eligible for a significant number of state-funded programs. So that's another incentive for us to assure compliance. Thank you.
Angela, thank you. I've shared a few comments, with DHCD, and I hope the MBTA, just so that, as we think about stakeholders who share responsibilities to really address the housing crisis, that we do it mindfully. It seems unfair to have a one-size-fits-all when we think about the obligations of a commonwealth, and where we see both the opportunities, the peril, and the promise of development. We are a burdened community in many ways. Our infrastructure is incredibly burdened. When I think about how we're going to address the challenge of repairing all these clay pipes that seem to leach out into our environmental resource areas, and we think about adding to the complexity of infrastructure without the mindfulness of the major transportation, the MBTA, not really being spelled out in legislation to have an affirmative seat at the table where we can think about their campus, their properties, their obligation, not just to move people, but to share the responsibility for housing people. It seems like we're missing, a real stakeholder from the legislation. That said, Swampscott, it has not just an idea or two about housing. We need to build some affordable housing. We will build affordable housing, but we should do it thoughtfully, mindfully, and we should use our master plan as a cornerstone for how that gets done. We should use smart growth and all the other tools that we have at our availability, because we don't want to cause more harm while we meet these affirmative responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And again, this is not an affordable housing mandate, it's a housing mandate. And it's a mandate to create zoning, not to build. I mean, the idea behind it is that you allow, and hopefully by allowing, we can somehow encourage the types of uses in the right locations where we hope can do more good than simply building more housing.
Does anyone else have questions?
I do, but go ahead first.
No, go ahead.
No, I guess I want to kind of counterbalance Sean's remarks. I actually think as though 100 years ago, people wouldn't imagine Swampscott to be what it is today. But yet it is what it is today, and that's the reason we have 100-year-old clay pipes that were never touched, because we didn't plan for it. We didn't anticipate the inevitability of density growth and population growth. Instead, it still came. We're talking about a harbor plan, and people keep talking about how beautiful our pier is. Well, we're all going to agree our pier is beautiful. It just doesn't look good underwater, right? So we have to plan for it, which means we have to recognize that, okay, it is something, we all love it. I mean, there isn't a single person here that hasn't taken a picture of it and shared it with somebody or done something, but there's an inevitability. And if the last 100 years in Swampscott has shown us anything, is density's inevitability. And that's because of our proximity to a power center and transit and business resources. And that's not going to change. And it's so I think that we have a choice to, I appreciate that this isn't a requisite to build anything, but we should be doing this with the spirit of, if we zone this and we get this right, we're actually okay with it being built. We want this being built. And that's the spirit we should do it with, and not a defensive posture, which is, let's do it the least way to do it. Because I actually think this is very egalitarian. I think, not totally, for sure, but very much so, because we're in the same boat as other communities. And the problems that we're going to have, even though we're unique because we have our own problems, but we're going to have very similar problems as the other communities that are going to be complying with this. And that's going to require the state to help us, and for us all to say, you put us upon this, we've got to, again, revisit Chapter 70 funding mechanisms. We, again, need to focus on more infrastructure loans or incentives to help us deal with those 100-year-old clay pipes that we just pretended to not care about or to know about while we just kept on growing and growing and growing. And so I think that there's a bit of, I just think we should embrace this opportunity and just appreciate the fact that what we have been doing as a Commonwealth for affordable housing hasn't worked, period. Like hard stop. And as someone who spends a good part of my professional life building both market rate and affordable housing, I will tell you that the industry has failed. The systems are imbalanced. And this is a tool, and yes, it forces us to do something, but I think it really forces us to do something that really can be beneficial for our community, and if only if we embrace it, though, as a tool that is, when we zone it, we want it built, because we want the people to be here, we want that environment, we want to invest in the infrastructure. And we don't have the answers today. We don't know how we're going to invest in the infrastructure, but I think that still presents us far better off than, again, if it was only Swampscott the state was making do this, I'd feel differently, right? But it's not. It's a whole very similarly situated communities, and I just think as though, again, there's a reason we're sitting here with 100-year-old schools and 100-year-old clay pipes. It's because we just didn't plan, and we didn't do that, and it's why in 10 years we're going to have to visit our pier underwater if we don't do anything. And so this falls in the category, to me, of potentially really exciting if we embrace it as a community. The communities that are not embracing it, I don't support them for not embracing it. I really think we need to embrace it, and I understand it's going to be hard. It's a hard conversation to rezone and to do this, and God knows I don't know the answer, but I hope that we embrace it as a community and see its opportunity to provide the housing type that, frankly, 80% of this population needs.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Don.
I was just going to say, I look at this, I agree with Peter, I look at this as kind of our school vote, where it became it wasn't a yes or no question, it was a where and when question. And one of the things that, a community doesn't want to see, which is happening today, is in some communities, an overbuilding of inappropriate housing because it's driven by economics, and you're reactive to the real estate development community. And what this says is, we embrace housing and we embrace change, but we're going to do it, on a planned basis, so it it has the appropriate effect on the community socially, socioeconomically, environmentally, and, you know, forces us to do some things with our infrastructure and on a planned basis. And when, you know, as we've seen time and time again in every community, when you're simply reactionary, you know, to the development community, or you're looking at things in a vacuum, they tend to fail. So I hope we do as a community embrace this.
I'd like to add that the timeline that I mentioned, so we're not even going to get final guidance until this summer.
Yeah.
Creating zoning in you know, essentially less than a year is of this magnitude is such a heavy lift. I mean, look how we can spend 2 years on something that we can't even get to town meeting. So it's very challenging to create zoning that is actually something we can bring to town meeting. We will need a really robust engagement process, and we'll need a timeline to get us there and the right people involved to get us there. We'll need support from the state. We'll need support from other professionals.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought it was Diane, sorry.
No, not me.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Marzie, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Angela.
So I can't emphasize that enough, and I'm hoping that we can. I'm hoping that we can start working on that. You know, town meeting's coming up. We have a lot going on. So, you know, by beginning of June, I propose that we start having some joint sessions and meetings and really talking strategy and how we look at breaking this down and what the process should look like in town.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with Peter's comments in terms of embracing it and being proactive. I mean, we act like, you know, we tend to be like allergic to
no
housing, but I guess my concern, and maybe I should know this, but I don't. I'm actually concerned that they're not requiring affordable housing in this, and I don't know whether there's something in the language that essentially forces it to be affordable housing, because why would we want, frankly, I'm not going for just more housing. I'm going for more actually affordable housing, and I don't think we need another 100.
Right. So I think the reason is twofold, Polly, and I think it's a really good question, and I think the reason is twofold. I think it's because the sense is that there will be fewer developers who will want to throw their hat into the ring to develop housing when they have the constriction of having to create affordable units. That's number one. And number two is the notion that if we create enough housing that kind of modifies or reduces demand, then prices will supposedly level out a bit. Now, I don't know whether I'm not someone who theorizes about those things, so I don't know if that's true or not. But that's the thought process behind it. Again, we do have an inclusionary zoning bylaw, and it, certainly would apply. And we can choose when we develop the zoning. We can choose to we can choose to build in affordability mechanisms.
Well, that was my second half of that question, or second follow-up question, is can we add, because that would be...
We can, as long as it doesn't discourage. If the state sees it as somehow inhibiting our ability to attract builders, then they won't allow us to.
Well, then that I think that to me is where the discussion really needs to be had.
It's tricky.
To Sean's point about the density, like I just think if this can't add to our affordable housing stock, we have to meet 10%.
I think it has to, right?
On top of these, I just think that's
a
terrible thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know the details. I haven't, I'm just hearing it from you. Basically, I was listening in on something, but my kids were around and I couldn't get all the details. So I don't know as much detail as I want to know, but anyway, if there is a way that we can include it without discouraging, or if there are exceptions that can be worked out for towns like ours, where in a normal community, it would be discouraging as a way to just avoid development altogether. In our case, I think it would actually be really helpful, because we just
Right.
don't have the amount of developable land.
I agree. And the state, from what I've read so far, what's available, the state is certainly interested in terms of, there is indeed the mandate to get done what,
Yeah, we have
is
to do it.
prescribed.
Yeah.
However, they do want cities and towns to, think creatively, and there is a lot of flexibility in the kinds of zoning mechanisms you can use.
Okay.
So I think it will take quite a bit of collaboration and a lot of expertise that we'll need to bring in to help us to do it.
Okay. And then in terms of safe harbor provisions, that just doesn't apply to us?
Oh, not for this, no.
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 But everyone has to do it despite any,
Everyone has to do it. Each and every one of the 51 MBTA communities.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, okay. And my last thing is just I'm glad it's by a bus, because I'm sorry, I've said this for a while, but like if you're taking the train,
Well, I think
this isn't affordable housing,
Right.
but yeah, it's a lot of money to take the train, that's all. So. Go ahead, Angela, I'm sorry.
No, that was all. That was all. Thank
All right,
you.
other comments, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter said the word opportunity like 7 times when he was talking about it. I do think it's,
Just a compliment.
yeah, I think it's an opportunity, and it is, it is forcing us to do what we've all been talking about. A lot of these things is what we want to do anyways, and so it's pushing us to do things that we want to do. I think, it's, as Angela said, we're just scratching the surface on this, and I do think we have, oddly, in many ways, we usually don't have a lot of flexibility with these things, but
Yeah.
I think there is some flexibility
Yes,
for
that's
us to do some creative things and think about what works well for us, so it doesn't feel like we're sort of boxed in a corner necessarily. But I think that also means, to Angela's points and also to what Aaron was talking about in the beginning, it requires a lot of engagement, and it requires a lot of people working on this sort of from the beginning.
That's right.
I think that it makes, I think we need a planner,
Yeah. Yeah, we can't look at it like we're,
So-
like we've got lots of time. We don't.
Right, so I
This
think-
is
yeah.
the beginning of the
Right.
process. We don't have
It'll-
lots of time. This is going to happen really fast.
Yeah, and I really
And,
appreciate
December
bringing that up.
2023
Yeah.
is nothing. It's nothing. It's a blink away in terms of getting zoning together. So,
As long time.
But yeah,
Any
thanks for the
volunteers?
presentation, and thanks for,
No, you're welcome.
for waiting.
I appreciate that, yeah. Yeah, I know, Angela, thanks a lot. And Marzie, as always. But hopefully the new handbook will help your evenings out a little bit more.
The 2-hour meeting,
There was no such
Provision.
provision. But, no, yeah. So, all right, any further discussion on that? Okay. Votes of the board. The consent agenda is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the board. We may adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion, or at the request of any board member, any item may be removed and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. And I am going to read the agenda items, consent agenda items now. Vote to approve one-day liquor license for Bentwater Brewing Company event on July 16th, 2022. Rain date July 17, 2022, from 2 to 10 p.m. at Fisherman's Beach. A vote to approve one-day liquor license for Swampscott Senior Center event on June 1, 2022, located at 200 Essex Street. A vote to approve one-day liquor license for East Regiment Beer Company for the Strawberry Festival, June 26, 2022, from 4 to 8 p.m. at Swampscott Town Hall. A vote to approve application for hawking and peddling and door-to-door solicitation for employee of Power Home Remodeling, located at 201 Jones Road, Waltham, Mass. 02451. Vote to approve application for hawking and peddling and door-to-door solicitation for employee of Sunrun Solar Panels, located at 248 Cherry Street, Shrewsbury, Mass. 01545. Vote to approve minutes of, and we're just looking at regular meetings. Sorry, I didn't catch the dates. If they were all the same, right? March 30th, 2022, April 6th, 2022, and April 12th, 2022.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Select board time. I'm just going to be really quick since everyone's staring at each other. Did you want to say something?
No, please go ahead.
Anyway, I'm going to make it quick because otherwise I'll become emotional. It's my last board meeting, and I'll be really quick. Want to thank you all for everything. How much I've learned and grown, and the collegiality of the town administrator, your forward thinking, your progressiveness, your open-mindedness, your enthusiasm, and lots more, and of the town staff that is with us and stays with us, and you've hired and had. It's been an amazing experience, and I really do wish it could have been a bit longer, but I'm doing the right thing right now. But especially to thank the residents who supported my candidacy, and those who continued or grew to have faith in my good faith, that I did everything I could with the time I had, and I wish forever and ever that I had more time, and forever and ever that I was better. It's hard to grow publicly, I think, in public eye, and so visibly, and I just, for myself, I'm not apologizing for anything in particular, but just the recognition that I know if I could continue to do what I was doing, I'd be doing it better than I did 3 years ago, and I'd be doing it better in a month than I did today. So that's unfortunate. It's hard, I think, for anybody who cares about the quality of their service to accept that reality, and I struggle with that. But I did what I could, and I appreciate everyone's support. And for other people coming in, just remembering that I'm sure that anyone giving their time is doing the best they can at the moment. Forget the board, just committees and boards generally. It's tough, and it's a great honor. It's not tough in a bad way. It's just, it asks a lot of you. And so anyway, I gave what I had, and I wish I could have been more, but thankful for what I did do and was able to do. And that's it. Thank you. No one has to respond to that. Sorry, Don, set you up.
I'll be brief as well, but it really has been an honor and a privilege to serve the town and the residents. I'd first like to thank my family, because as people know, when you're an elected official, you're usually not receiving kudos, but criticisms, and your family is part of that, whether they like it or not, and they make a great sacrifice in supporting you and in supporting, de facto supporting the town. So I would like to thank them. Next week will be the first week, I think, in 18 years that I won't be at a board meeting,
Wow.
which my family has said they've been wishing for, but I think they may regret that I'll be around more often. I've been really proud of the work that the boards I've been involved in have done. I'm not going to say I'm going to say we, the boards. I've been privileged to work with a lot of great people. Sean, you've been one of the best. I think people don't realize the yeoman's work that town staff does to support us and the other boards and the towns. I've learned a lot. I've learned from my mistakes. It's been a terrific experience. I would encourage anybody that feels they have something to add, criticism of the town, to volunteer, to run. running for elected office and when you get elected, it's a very humbling experience because you realize that many people that you didn't even know support you, and it's also, there's a big mantle of responsibility to make sure that you're the voice of the people that elected you. So I'd like to think I might be back in public office. I might at some point, but it's been terrific and bittersweet, and I would say to no disrespect to my other colleagues, but to Peter Spelios, Scarecrow, I think I'll miss you most of all. So.
Are you leaving the door open there, Don?
Good, a politician. Of course I know.
Is that what that is? I'll be really brief. I just want to thank you, Don and Polly, for being incredible members of the board. I've only been on the select board for 2 years, so it'll be strange for me to adjust to new people. And certainly when I came on, we were not in a room together for quite some time. But I appreciate working with you both. It's definitely an experience that only the people who are part of that group can really understand what it's like to do, and so there's just an immediate bond there, I think, right away. I think, and I think most of all, I'm just really appreciative of the friendships that we've created and just becoming friends with you, and that's amazing, and that you're not members of the select board anymore. We're all still friends, and that's fantastic, and sort of, I think, more important than anything else. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thanks, yeah.
Oh, I'm good. I got nothing to say.
Yeah.
You want a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. So I think that we're going to have an opportunity to say more to you in the near future, whether you like it or not. So tonight really isn't so long or farewell, to be honest with you, but both of you. Don, in those 18 years, I believe I might have been the one buying you a Coors Light for each of those 18 years of weekly board meetings. And I appreciate that because you and I didn't know each other the first board meeting on the first zoning board that we were on. And we actually met 2 weeks before at a pool party and before our first meeting. And coincidentally, another individual who was getting appointed to the zoning board was there as well. So 3 of us got to meet each other that night. And to this day, I can't remember a night where I laughed more than that night. And that really is like the embodiment of Don, which is it is tough what this is, right? But it's nothing compared to the things that you've gone through while you've been doing this. And you do it with a humility and a calmness and a humor that I could only hope I have inside of me. And it is, you like to say, well, Peter and I don't agree on a lot of things, and so I'm going to say it tonight. You and I haven't agreed on some things, but what allowed us to figure out how to do it together was, at our core, we agreed on what was mostly important. And you demonstrated that the way you lived your life during the hardest times for you and your family, and showed up every board meeting and did what you did. And I think it's just an incredible example. And I will miss you, and you got to tell me where you're going to next so I can hook up with you and join you again for Coors Lights.
My tabs? Yeah.
All right.
He's going to be heckling us.
And he'll be here for every public comment. He'll be like,
He's sitting in the front row right there.
Paul, we didn't really get to know each other until you were on the board. And I remember the conversation after a financial summit that we had where we talked about you running for the board. And you were on the FinCom, and to be here with a young family, moving to a town and decide that you want to be on the finance committee and you want to be involved, like that DNA doesn't exist. You really are the example in our community of someone who from day one just stepped in, and you didn't say, hey, I want to volunteer in a small way. You volunteered in a really big way, and you represented a voice, that frankly especially at that time in this community, was totally, totally underrepresented, demographically, in every way. A young family, a young woman, a successful professional, you filled something that this town desperately needs, and you're now making the move to try and fill something else this town desperately needs. And I think that's really, really, really admirable. I personally believe as though there can't be enough incredibly bright women at Beacon Hill, so I want you to succeed in every possible way. You have challenged me, and publicly and privately, and we've sparred on things, but I love the fact that you actually don't back down from me. And I love the fact that there aren't a lot of people in my life that feel comfortable just saying, we're in it, we have the gloves on, we're gonna figure it out. And okay having the discussion and knowing at the end, we may have to lick a few wounds or take a few minutes, but then we're like, okay, we're good. And you always made that effort to come back afterwards, especially when you got the better of the arguments, but at all times notwithstanding. And that really meant something, because you in doing that for me made me better, right? And we all have plenty of room to grow, like you talked about. I have no doubt you're going to be, whether here, in Beacon Hill, wherever, you're going to be doing much bigger and brighter things. You've laid the groundwork for us on so many things that we have to now carry on and do it, but you're just beginning. And I really, truly believe that, and I think we're lucky for that. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Thank you.
But we'll have more time to talk with you guys soon.
Yeah.
Look, I, as Peter mentioned, there's a line in the budget for civic recognition, so there will be some opportunities to celebrate public service. I hope in some ways, over the next week or two, you can reflect on the type of changes you've been able to bring as elected officials. In no small way, the last 2 years have been impossible and yet remarkable. The leadership and the support and the care that you both have exemplified have really set a standard. You're absolutely wonderful people. And, it's amazing to me, we hear so much about vitriol. We hear so much about, the criticisms and how we could do so much better. But what I have been able to see across almost every line is an esprit de corps, where you do work with each other. You do the hardest work to work together. And Swampscott has succeeded in so many ways because of that. Your work to try to build a more inclusive community, to find a path forward for a town to really think more critically about your place in this Commonwealth has been awesome. Our work on environmental stewardship, whether it's thinking about plastics or our waste, has been difficult but awesome. Building a new elementary school and putting the financial pieces together. This weekend I was at Town Hall and I had to pick up a pre-COVID warrant to look at language, and I grabbed the 2014 town meeting warrant and I saw your name in it, Polly, and I thought to myself, I can't believe the years that you have put into trying to help a community succeed. And Don, your position on so many issues was so helpful because, as Peter mentioned, you can relate to just about anybody, and you have the ability to be so, not just self-effacing, but connectable. It has been awe-inspiring to see you set a standard for how to deal with so many complexities and keep one foot in front of the other and continue to meet a a standard for public service during these incredibly difficult times. I can only hope in some ways that, you know, you give your family a little peace, but also, you know, when it's time, you know, continue to, you know, use your talents and encourage others to use their talents and lead. Polly, you know, your leadership, not only on a board that had 3 women on it, where you led the town for the first time as women leading a community, 3 members of a select board. To me, that's not, it's not historic, it should be normal. And we've got to make sure that we have more women playing a role in leadership responsibilities. So lots of really wonderful things, and it's been a real privilege of mine to have worked with you both, and I hope in many ways, you know, we can continue the friendship, but also the teamwork. You've planted seeds. Both of you have planted seeds. They're in the capital projects. They're in budgets, and it's my hope that the work that you've started will continue to be nurtured as citizens, but certainly as folks that will always be endeared by this town.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you.
Don, would you like to make a motion?
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right.
All right.
Night.
Congrats.
Thank you. Okay.